Chapter 428. Jiang Xi didn't find it strange that Qi Song could recognize him. The cloud top competition was around the corner, and he had collected information on the others. The others must have collected information on him as well. At this moment, Qi Song and the late-stage Dao integration dual-eyed soul beast were still fighting 700 to 800 kilometers away. Jiang Xi's figure flashed continuously, and in the blink of an eye, he arrived at the place where they were fighting. Roar! The 10,000 feet tall dual-eyed soul beast roared and used its spiritual sense attack. It gave one a splitting headache and waves of dizziness. However, Jiang Xi had the visualization image to suppress his spiritual sense, so he wasn't afraid of these spiritual sense attacks at all. The inferior-grade immortal artifact Red Cloud Sword transformed into a huge green lotus that restricted the dual-eyed soul beast's movements. Roar! The soul beast roared angrily. Qi Song didn't let go of this good opportunity. He held his dagger and transformed into thousands of illusions. All the illusions attacked at the same time, hitting the soul beast's fatal points. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, Jiang Xi's mind moved, and the huge green lotus transformed into countless sword lights that struck the final blow. Finishing blow. The late-stage Dao integration dual-eyed soul beast suddenly turned into a large amount of gray air current. You killed a late-stage Dao integration soul beast. Experience points plus 26,000, Jiang Xi withdrew his sword, and the experience points panel sounded in his mind. Haha, Jiang Xi, thank you very much. If not for you, I would have been in a sorry state just now. Qi Song had a simple and honest smile on his face as he cupped his hands and thanked Jiang Xi. You're welcome. Jiang Xi shook his head and chuckled. He didn't underestimate the core disciple of the fourth heaven. Although this dual-eyed soul beast was at the late-stage Dao integration, it had low intelligence and simple attack patterns. It wasn't as difficult to kill it as expected. Since Qi Song could resist the soul beast's spiritual sense attack, it meant that his methods and strength were not bad. Moreover, his dagger was also an inferior-grade immortal artifact like Red Cloud Sword. It could easily break through the soul beast's defense. Even without his help, Qi Song could kill this soul beast with his strength. It would just take a little more time half each. Qi Song pointed at the gray air current in front of him. Sure. Jiang Xi nodded. Qi Song gently waved the dagger in his hand, and the grey stream of air split into two. Both of them absorbed and refined the energy. Jiang Xi immediately felt that the strength of his spiritual sense had increased by a large margin. As expected of a Dao integration final stage soul beast. Just half of this grey energy is equivalent to the total amount of soul beasts I killed in a month. In this way, Jiang Xi felt that it was even more worth it to make a move. It was a pity that Dao integration final stage soul beasts were not that easy to encounter. Otherwise, if he could hunt a large number of them, the strength of his soul sense would increase even faster. Jiang Xi, you've got more guts than I thought. You've only been in the Purple Heaven sect for 100 years, and you've already dared to take on a hell-level mission, Qi Song praised from the bottom of his heart after he had also finished refining. Because Jiang Xi's fame was too great recently, especially after he passed the 7th stage of the sky-connecting mountain. It also attracted the attention of all the nascent soul stage disciples in the 3rd and 4th heavens. This was a genius and a formidable opponent. Jiang Xi smiled and didn't say anything. In terms of guts, Qi Song was much more gutsy than him. There were many ways to select core disciples in the Purple Heaven sect. The 9 Zones Genius Battle was just one of them. There were also recommendation selections, trial selections, special talent selections, and so on. For example, the native tribes of the Myriad Mountain Star Sea who wanted to enter the Purple Heaven sect had to undergo a survival trial. After surviving in the Myriad Mountain Star Sea for a month, one could apply to become a disciple of the Purple Heaven sect. Qi Song had also entered the Purple Heaven sect through a trial, and he had passed the most difficult trial on the Black Dungeon planet. The Black Dungeon planet's environment was harsh, and it was mixed with all kinds of extreme energy, such as gales and extreme cold. Ordinary nascent soul stage cultivators could not even last a day there and would be destroyed by those extreme energies. To survive on the Black Dungeon planet, one not only needed strength, but also luck, strong willpower, and extraordinary courage. Hence, under normal circumstances, one could enter the Purple Heavens sect after surviving in the Black Dungeon planet for 10 days. However, Chi-Song had survived there for a full year and used this opportunity to enter the Purple Heaven sect's second heaven. After that, he passed the Cloud Peak competition for nascent soul stage cultivators and jumped 2 levels in 500 years to become a core disciple of the fourth heaven. Such an experience was legendary. Suddenly, Chi-Song's expression changed. Not good, let's go. Just as he finished speaking. Roar. Roar. A series of angry roars came from the top of the mountain. At the same time, a powerful aura approached the two of them. Even without Chi-Song's reminder, Jiang Xi knew that something was wrong. The two of them sped up almost at the same time and left this place. They could see tens of thousands of soul beasts of different sizes running down from the top of the mountain. Leading them were 4 Dao integration stage dual-eyed soul beast. Once they were surrounded, even if they were geniuses, they would not be able to stop them. Fortunately, the soul beasts had a strong sense of territory. After Jiang Xi and Chi-Song left the Starry Mountain, the soul beasts did not continue to chase after them. The two of them stood at the edge of the Sea of Stars and heaved a sigh of relief as they watched the soul beasts retreat. How did you know that there was a soul beast group on the top of the mountain? Jiang Xi was a little puzzled. The soul beasts were hidden in the void and could not be discovered by spiritual senses. However, before the soul beasts appeared, Chi-Song had already reacted in advance. There's a pattern, don't you know? Chi-Song was a little surprised. A pattern? Jiang Xi did not notice. How long have you been here? Chi-Song laughed. Half a year, definitely not as long as you. Looks like you also want to complete the 5U survival mission. Chi-Song's eyes flashed with a strange look. Then he said, you've only been here for half a year, it's normal that you haven't noticed these patterns. Soul beasts all appear from the void. You should know this, right? Jiang Xi nodded. Chi-Song continued, the pattern of the appearance of soul beasts follows the pattern of the weakest and the strongest. Where there are nascent soul beasts, there will definitely be Dao integration soul beasts, and vice versa. Moreover, there will definitely be a soul beast group here. As for essence soul beasts, they are basically all alone. Riverward came to a sudden realization. It was no wonder that most of the soul beasts he encountered were at the nascent soul stage. It turned out that nascent soul and Dao integration soul beasts existed in packs. So the late-stage Dao integration soul beast you killed at the top of the mountain wasn't by chance? Jiang Xi asked again. That's right. I first encountered an early-stage nascent soul beast, and then I knew that late-stage Dao integration soul beasts would appear there. I just didn't expect late-stage Dao integration soul beasts to be so difficult to deal with. If it weren't for your help, I'm afraid I would have to give up in the end. Chi-Song laughed. Jiang Xi felt that this was very useful information. In the future, he could also use this pattern to hunt Dao integration soul beasts. Actually, there are many dangers in the myriad mountain star sea that follow a pattern. Soul beasts are just one of them, and there's also the appearance of the nebula vortex. Chi-Song pretended to smile mysteriously. Chapter 429. The pattern of the nebula whirlpool? Jiang Xi's eyes flashed. He had tried to find the pattern before, but he couldn't find it. That's right. In my opinion, the nebula whirlpool is the biggest danger in the infinite mountain star sea. The number of people swallowed by the whirlpool is more than the number of people killed by the spirit beasts. That's why I studied it for a year and found some patterns of the nebula whirlpool. Chi-Song nodded and smiled. His honest smile made people feel good about him. Is it related to the nebula waves? Jiang Xi was puzzled. Every time the nebula whirlpool appeared, there would be waves before it turned into a whirlpool. Yes, and no. Chi-Song smiled. This made Jiang Xi even more puzzled. Haha, the pattern I found is actually very simple. The larger the nebula waves, the smaller the suction force of the nebula whirlpool, and vice versa. Chi-Song laughed. Jiang Xi's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly recalled the nebula whirlpools he had encountered before. He found that there was indeed such a pattern, but he had encountered few whirlpools, so he couldn't conclude the pattern. Then why did you say no? Jiang Xi asked. Because this is only the pattern of the whirlpool's appearance. I haven't found how the nebula waves appear. Otherwise, I'm confident that I can survive longer in the infinite mountain star sea, and maybe find the ancestral land of the aboriginals. Qi Song sighed. Jiang Xi nodded lightly. Although the nebula whirlpool was dangerous, it was ultimately formed by the nebula waves. Only by finding the pattern of the nebula waves' appearance could he avoid this danger. Okay, I've told you everything I know. Consider it as payment for your help. Let's go our separate ways. Qi Song joked. Then, see you at the cloud top competition. Jiang Xi laughed heartily. Goodbye. They were both geniuses, so of course they didn't plan to travel together. The two of them turned their backs to each other. Suddenly, Qi Song lifted his leg and kicked Jiang Xi at lightning speed. Unexpectedly, Jiang Xi was already prepared, and he gave a roundhouse kick. Boom. But in this exchange, it was River Word who took the upper hand. His body was 10 times stronger than a supreme-grade spiritual weapon, which gave him great strength and speed. He kicked Qi Song away. What a strong body. Qi Song was shocked. This was information that he had not gathered. Then you deserve to die even more. Goodbye. He sneered again, then turned and left. Jiang Xi was expressionless. His previous enthusiasm had disappeared without a trace. He was such a cautious person, how could he easily expose his back to the other party? However, Xiao Chen was puzzled. Qi Song's action of turning around and leaving was somewhat baffling. Wasn't this hypocritical fellow a little too overconfident? However, Jiang Xi did not plan to let him go. His sword flashed as he attacked Qi Song. Crash. Almost instantly, a nebula vortex appeared not far from Jiang Xi. Not good. Jiang Xi's expression changed drastically. The powerful devouring gravitational force bound him, making him unable to break free. The gravitational force this time was far stronger than the vortexes he had encountered before. Flying boat. At the critical moment, a supreme-grade flying boat appeared. He wanted to use the flying boat's power to break free from the devouring gravitational force. Speed up. Speed up. The flying boat's acceleration caused the nearby space to become chaotic and the nebula to circulate. The situation was in a deadlock. If I work harder, I can get rid of it. Jiang Xi's face was ferocious. He knew that after the vortex appeared, it would last for a while before disappearing. But at this moment, Qi Song, who was already 100 kilometers away, took out a supreme-grade spiritual weapon longsword and directly threw it. Swoosh. The long sword cut through the space and crashed into Jiang Xi's flying boat. Although Qi Song did not use a sword, with his strength, the power of a casual throw. In addition to the devouring gravitational force of the vortex, it was enough to break the deadlock between the flying boat and the vortex. Whoosh whoosh. The nebula vortex instantly swallowed the flying boat and Jiang Xi together. A moment later, the nebula vortex disappeared, and the sea of stars returned to its calm state. Qi Song came to this position. His honest face was filled with a sinister expression, a supreme-grade spiritual weapon in exchange for the life of a strong opponent. A great deal. Jiang Xi, although we have no enmity, you are too big of a threat to me. Only your death can guarantee that my position in the fourth heaven will not be shaken. Under normal circumstances, there could only be 3 nascent soul disciples in the fourth heaven. Among the 3 senior disciples, Qi Song was the youngest and did not have as deep a foundation as the other 2 senior disciples. From Qi Song's point of view, even in this Cloud Summit competition, Jiang Xi was not a threat to his position. With Jiang Xi's talent, next time, and the time after that, it was hard to say. It was best to take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of the threat. Qi Song's gaze was ruthless as he stared at the slowly flowing sea of stars. This time, he used 2 advantages to create this opportunity. After hunting spirit beasts for more than 3 years, under the nourishment of the grey airflow, my spiritual consciousness has already broken through the limits of the perfected nascent soul. The range of detection has increased from 1,000 kilometers to 1,500 kilometers. Also, I know the pattern of the nebula wave's appearance. After a spirit beast horde appears from nothingness, there will definitely be nebula waves nearby. The larger the beast horde, the smaller the waves, and the stronger the whirlpool. In order to hunt spirit beasts at the Tao integration stage, he had hidden in this huge mountain in the starry sky for a month. Before this, he had already killed a spirit beast at the Tao integration stage and lured out a spirit beast horde. Therefore, he was very clear about the location of the nebula wave's appearance. Just now, he had asked Jiang Ci for help on purpose. Because his spiritual consciousness detection range was 500 kilometers higher than Jiang Ci's, he had already discovered Jiang Ci. Then, everything that happened next happened. Including the spirit beast horde's pursuit, he deliberately ran first and brought Jiang Ci here. No one will investigate the death of a core disciple in the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea. Even if someone investigates, they won't be able to trace it back to me. I will never allow anyone to threaten my position. Qi Song's expression was resolute. The experience of growing up in his childhood had created two completely different personalities. On the surface, he was simple, honest, and amiable. On the inside, he was vicious and unscrupulous. This was the biggest crisis Jiang Ci had faced since he embarked on the path of cultivation. The danger was unknown, and the probability of survival was unknown. The nebula whirlpool seemed to be infinitely long. Jiang Ci was sucked in by the gravitational force and descended an unknown distance. Chance. There must be a chance. Jiang Ci still maintained a sense of calmness. Since he had not died immediately after being swallowed, it meant that there was still a chance. Whoosh whoosh. His figure descended at an extremely fast speed, descending. After an unknown period of time. Suddenly, a faint sound reached Jiang Ci's ears. Roar, woo. It was not an angry roar, but a low cry and whimper of a young beast. Spirit beast. Could it be that the nebula whirlpool really leads to nothingness? Jiang Ci's heart stirred. Chapter 430. Roar. Woo. Low growls could be heard continuously. Although he guessed that the nebula vortex might lead to the void space where the soul beasts were. But these low growls also proved that it was very dangerous below. There might be a large number of soul beasts in the void space, tens of thousands or even millions. With so many soul beasts, it could be said to be a dangerous place. Therefore, Jiang Ci didn't have the mood to think about anger or revenge. Surviving and finding a chance of survival was what he should do. Roar. The beast growls became clearer and clearer. Hua, suddenly, the devouring force disappeared. Below, it suddenly became clear. This was a huge space, surrounded by endless darkness. In the darkness, there were valleys that were slightly emitting light. Each valley was incomparably huge, and one couldn't see the end. There were a total of 36 valleys. Jiang Ci held his breath. At this moment, he was floating above one of the valleys at a low altitude. In the valley below, there were hundreds of thousands of soul beasts of different sizes. With a glance, he even saw two soul beasts emitting immortal Tao aura, and their bodies were as long as 1,000,000 feet. It's really the soul beast's lair. Jiang Ci was shocked and bitter at the same time. Fortunately, most of the soul beasts were sleeping, and even the two immortal Tao soul beasts were sleeping. Those low growls were made by the soul beasts in their sleep. He didn't dare to make any movements for fear of attracting the attention of the soul beasts. Jiang Ci's eyes lit up. He saw that in the valley below, a vortex with a diameter of about 3 kilometers had appeared out of thin air, and then a nascent soul beast beside it disappeared. So this is how the soul beasts of the Myriad Mountains Star Sea appear. Are those vortexes also nebula vortexes? Before he could finish this thought, he discovered that within the range of his spiritual sense, which was within 1,000 kilometers, another 4 vortexes had appeared one after another. This is an opportunity. Jiang Ci realized this point. He could use those vortexes to return to the Myriad Mountains Star Sea, wait for a vortex that is close enough, then leave directly. He definitely couldn't make any big movements now. If he woke up the soul beasts, it would really be over. Bang! 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 At this moment, a series of soft crashing sounds came from afar. Roar! Some soul beasts were roaring furiously, as if they were enraged. Along with these voices, a faint white light appeared in the distance. Jiang Xi's heart skipped a beat. He probed with his spiritual awareness but found nothing there. Something was wrong. The location of the white light was only a little more than 100 kilometers away from here. With his spiritual sense, he could completely investigate everything clearly. Furthermore, there were many soul beasts in the valley, so that place couldn't be empty. His eyes narrowed slightly as he focused his vision. Vaguely, he was finally able to see something clearly. That's a palace. It was very blurry, but he could confirm that there was a palace under the cover of the white light. Some of the soul beasts that were close to the light barrier were ramming into it. With each collision, the light screen would emit a faint white light. There were even Dao integration stage soul beasts that tried to ram into the light barrier, but they were still blocked by the light barrier. This made Jiang Xi very surprised. The white curtain of light was definitely an array formation, but it was quite powerful. He looked at the other parts of the dark space. Here, he could clearly see the general appearance of the 36 huge valleys. However, 26 of them were emitting a golden light, while the other 10 were emitting a faint white light. There might be similar light screens in these valleys, and there's a palace in each valley. Could it be that these palaces are the ancestral lands of the indigenous tribes? This thought appeared in Jiang Xi's mind. However, he didn't have any intention of entering the palace to look for the inheritance. Because these were only his guesses. If he couldn't pass through the light screen like those soul beasts, then it would be a tragedy. Once he moved, he would definitely attract the attention of the soul beasts. There were 2 immortal Dao soul beasts and hundreds of thousands of soul beasts below the immortal Dao level. Once he woke up, he would really be turned into ashes. There would be no chance of survival at all. If I can leave, it's better to leave. Let's wait a little longer. If there's really no chance to leave, I'll bet on my luck and see if I can enter the palace. He wanted to leave this space as soon as possible. As for opportunities, if he lost his life, why would he care about opportunities? Hurry up. Give me a closer whirlpool. Jiang Xi maintained his calm amidst his anxiety. As time passed, he saw many whirlpools appearing in the valley. However, very few appeared in the air, and even if there were, they were very far away from him. Bang! 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 The sound of the soul beasts hitting the light screen became more and more intense, one after another. Moreover, there were some soul beasts below. It seemed that it was time for them to move. They woke up one after another and walked towards the faint white light screen in the distance. Fortunately, no soul beasts looked up. Otherwise, they would have discovered Jiang Xi directly. Roar! Suddenly, an angry roar sounded below Jiang Xi. Jiang Xi knew that something was wrong. Because a soul beast that was sleeping with its head raised below had woken up. As soon as it opened its eyes, it saw Jiang Xi. Let's go all out. Jiang Xi's spiritual sense detected that a whirlpool had appeared 400 kilometers away. It was the closest one to him. Whoosh! His figure flashed and flew towards the whirlpool. Roar! Roar! Immediately, angry roars sounded one after another. His movement attracted the attention of even more soul beasts. There were even Dao integration soul beasts. These soul beasts were extremely ferocious and pounced towards Jiang Xi. Boom! A late-stage Dao integration soul beast was the fastest and suddenly crashed into Jiang Xi. It instantly sent Jiang Xi flying. Roar! The soul beasts roared excitedly as if they had found a toy. Their blocking action caused Jiang Xi to lose the opportunity to enter the whirlpool 400 kilometers away. In just a second, the whirlpool disappeared. Damn it! Jiang Xi was anxious. More and more soul beasts pounced on him. The only thing that made him heave a sigh of relief was that the 2 immortal soul beasts showed no signs of waking up. It seemed that a nascent soul human like him was not worth mentioning in the eyes of the immortal soul beasts. Swish, swish, swish. Jiang Xi swung his sword and killed hundreds of soul beasts, but he did not scare them away. Instead, he made these low-intelligence soul beasts even more ferocious. Roar! Roar! The soul beasts roared angrily. Buzz! Waves of spiritual sense attacks also appeared at the same time. Even though Jiang Xi had the visualization image to suppress his sea of consciousness, he was almost unable to withstand this constant spiritual sense attack. I can't wait any longer. This is the last path. He originally wanted to hold on for a while under the siege of the soul beasts and find an opportunity to enter the whirlpool that appeared randomly. But now that more and more soul beasts were trapping him here, he had no way to get close to those whirlpools. The number of soul beasts besieging him increased from hundreds to thousands, and it was still developing towards tens of thousands. If this continued, he would really have no way to survive. Chapter 431. Jiang Xi's gaze fell on the palace 100 kilometers away. The palace was shrouded in a white light screen. Because the light screen had the effect of isolating spiritual sense, he couldn't see the exact situation of the palace from his position. However, after his observation just now, he could conclude that even Dao integration stage soul beasts couldn't penetrate the light screen and enter the palace. It was very likely that the inheritance of the indigenous race was there. Since the Purple Heaven sect had given the inheritance as a hidden reward, it meant that he had a high chance of entering. Last chance. Roar. Roar. Boom boom boom. Close to 10,000 soul beasts gathered from all directions and surrounded him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Jiang Xi's figure turned into a series of after-images, and the Scarlet Heaven sword broke through all obstacles. Whoosh, more than 100 kilometers could be crossed in an instant. But now, it took him 6 to 7 seconds to cross the distance of 100 kilometers. Fortunately, the two immortal soul beasts still didn't wake up after such a big commotion. It seemed that his nascent soul stage was really not worth mentioning in the eyes of immortal soul beasts. Soon, Jiang Xi arrived in front of the white light screen that covered the palace and passed through it. Buzz. In the next moment, the white light screen turned into a golden light screen. The golden light shone brightly. Bang 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 bang. Behind him, nearly 10,000 soul beasts couldn't help but crash into the light screen. Roar. 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 The soul beasts were dizzy from the collision. They shook their heads and then roared at Jiang Xi through the light screen. Success. Jiang Xi heaved a sigh of relief for the time being. Although the danger wasn't over yet, he was still in the midst of hundreds of thousands of soul beasts. But for the time being, the soul beasts couldn't threaten his life. Is this really the ancestral land of the indigenous race? Jiang Xi turned around and curiously sized up the ancient palace in front of him. Previously, because the light screen had the effect of isolating spiritual sense, he could only vaguely see the appearance of the palace. Now, he could finally see it clearly. This palace, before Jiang Xi could take a closer look. Suddenly, a huge vortex appeared in the dark sky. A powerful immortal aura spread throughout the entire space. Roar. Roar. Immediately, the soul beasts in the 36 valleys were all awakened and roared angrily. In the next moment, two figures passed through the vortex tunnel and arrived in this space. A man and a woman. The man was handsome and the woman was beautiful. Both of them carried long swords on their backs and were dressed like sword immortals. Senior apprentice brother, is this the Nethervoid realm that the Dao Alliance's heavenly court spoke of? The elegant woman asked. It is located in the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea and has 36 divine palaces. It should be correct. The handsome man smiled. The two of them spoke calmly, but their voices were extremely loud, resounding throughout the entire dark space. Wait, senior apprentice brother. Didn't the Dao Alliance's heavenly court say that there are 10 empty temples? Why are there only 9? Who cares how many there are, as long as it's enough for the two of us? We've been waiting for 30,000 years in Swords Gate, and we've finally gotten 2 spots. Let's go in quickly. The two figures separated in the air and flew towards the other 2 valleys that were emitting a faint white light. Roar. The soul beasts in the valley roared at them, especially the immortal soul beasts. Their voices were the loudest. Their 100,000 feet tall bodies were like terrifying demonic shadows in the dark sky. A mere 3 tribulation soul beast dares to be so impudent. The elegant woman unsheathed her sword. The massive swordlight turned into a 1,000,000 feet long rainbow that swept towards a tribulation transcender soul beast below. Boom. Heaven and earth shook. The 100,000 feet tall 3 tribulation soul beast was killed with a single slash, turning into a grey mist that filled the sky. Not only that, But tens of thousands of soul beasts below the immortal Tao level also exploded. Junior apprentice sister, why do you care about these beasts? Let's go in quickly. The handsome man laughed. The elegant woman sheathed her sword. The two of them entered the two valleys. In the next moment, the faint white light emitted by the two valleys turned golden. Jiang Xi stood in place in a daze, his face filled with shock. He was shocked by the strength of the female sword immortal. She was able to kill a 3 tribulation transcender soul beast with a single slash. At the same time, he was shocked by the words of the two sword immortals. Nethervoid realm? If that's the case, is this really the ancestral land of the natives? There are 36 valleys and 36 temples, and I occupy one of them. He recalled that when he was above this valley, he did see that each valley was emitting a faint light. Among them, 30 were golden and 10 were white. And these faint lights were emitted by the temples in the valleys. Those two sword immortals have the inheritance quota. After entering the valley, the white light turned golden. After I passed through that light curtain, the white light also turned golden. Does this mean that I have obtained the qualifications for the inheritance? Jiang Xi's heart was moved. It was a blessing in disguise. He really had to thank that son of a bitch Qi Song. However, that son of a bitch dared to bite the hand that fed him. I'll teach him a lesson later. He temporarily put his anger in the bottom of his heart. He walked closer to the ancient temple. He could clearly see that there was a white jade stone staircase in front of him. He couldn't see the end at a glance. Stone tablet. At the bottom left of the stone staircase, there was a simple stone tablet. Jiang Xi walked over and saw that the stone tablet was engraved with unknown and complicated words. He had never seen such words before, but the information on the stone tablet was clearly transmitted to his mind. Nethervoid realm, Nethervoid temple. Anyone with a soul can become the inheritor of the Nethervoid temple if they step onto the inheritance stairs. There are a total of 999 steps on the inheritance stairs. Enter the Nethervoid temple and you can obtain the complete inheritance. The inheritance has a time limit of 10 years. If you cannot complete all the steps, you will fail. Over the years, countless prodigies from different races have come to the Nethervoid realm. Until now, no one has obtained the complete inheritance. The rules were very simple. But it didn't specify what kind of inheritance it was. Anyone with a soul. I definitely have a soul. Let's go up and take a look. Jiang Xi lifted his foot and stepped onto the first white jade stone staircase. Immediately, a mysterious message appeared in his mind. Secret Dao Seal Technique? Jiang Xi was pleasantly surprised. It turned out that the so-called inheritance was a secret technique related to the soul. Secret technique. He had already seen the power of the Dao fusion technique and the Dao pattern technique. Then, was this Dao seal technique as powerful as the other two secret techniques? He opened the experience panel to take a look. Strangely, this secret technique wasn't recorded in the panel. Jiang Xi carefully sorted out the mysterious information that appeared in his mind. Only then did he understand. So it's too badly damaged. It doesn't have the qualifications to be recorded. The experience panel wouldn't record ordinary things. The inheritance has a time limit of 10 years. Next, I'll accept the inheritance step by step. Let's see which step I can reach in the end. Jiang Xi looked at the 999 white jade stone staircase. Here, his spiritual sense was still restricted. He couldn't detect the ancient temple at the end of the staircase. Chapter 432. At the edge of the myriad mountains Star Sea, in an inconspicuous palace. The skinny old man, who was a fourth tribulation transcender, was expressionlessly looking at the 5 messengers kneeling below. 3 of them were at the Dao integration stage, and 2 were at the primordial soul stage. There were originally 6 of them, but 1 of them had been killed by Jiang Xi. The skinny old man didn't conceal this matter. The only thing he didn't reveal was the existence of the immortal restrictions. That primordial soul stage expert was dead, but Jiang Xi's fate was unknown. Therefore, he still ordered the 5 of them to search for Jiang Xi's whereabouts. The skinny old man's voice was indifferent as he said, I'm very disappointed. It's already been more than half a year, but you still haven't found anything. The 5 outstanding talents of the natives immediately begged for mercy in fear and trepidation. This was a high and mighty immortal. If they angered this immortal, they wouldn't have a chance to live. They had already realized that this assassination mission wasn't just an opportunity. Not only was it a fortuitous encounter, it could also be a disaster. I'll give you another half a year. The skinny old man didn't say any threatening words. This was already enough. The 5 natives immediately became very anxious. They hurriedly ended the transmission and went to look for Jiang Xi's whereabouts. In the empty main hall, the skinny old man frowned and fell into deep thought. He had reason to suspect that the explosion of the immortal restrictions of the primordial soul stage native was triggered by Jiang Xi. At that time, the blonde middle stage Dao integration stage native had also met Jiang Xi in that area. There couldn't be such a coincidence. The blonde native had just met Jiang Xi when the bald native exploded. Is he dead or not? This was the most important question. With the strength of the remaining 5 natives, they could complete a blanket search of the myriad mountains star sea in half a year. If Jiang Xi wasn't dead, they would have met him long ago. Maybe he's really dead. If there's really no trace of him after half a year, at this time, the sound of hurried footsteps and an anxious voice could be heard. Master, please save my Chu Yingxing. A young late-stage Dao integration stage cultivator staggered in from outside the hall and knelt on the ground while sobbing. The skinny old man was a 4th tribulation transcender, and he didn't allow people to fly in his palace. Unless they were stronger than him. What's the matter? The skinny old man's thoughts were interrupted, and he was somewhat displeased. Master, a few days ago, a cultivator from Chu Ying planet unintentionally ran into Arhat Qingshan of the Buddhist sect. In the end, Arhat Qingshan took my hometown, Chu Ying Star, into his Buddhist kingdom. Right now, billions of lives on Chu Ying planet are in danger. I beg, Master. Mountain raising Arhat? The skinny old man was shocked. Then he interrupted his disciples, pleading with an indifferent tone, give up. Qingshan is a 9 tribulations Arhat. I can't help you with this. Master. The young man's eyes were bloodshot. As long as you're still here, your Chu Ying planet's bloodline will not be severed. Go down. The young man clenched his fists and left unwillingly. In the empty hall, only the emaciated old man was left. However, he was no longer in the mood to think about Jiang Xi's problem. In his early years, Arhat Qingshan walked the path of killing. He wanted to comprehend the mystery of putting down the butcher's knife and becoming a Buddha. That's why he hasn't killed another living being in the past 20,000 years. Why would he want to kill this time? Strange, strange. This was equivalent to the vow of silence cultivation being broken. 20,000 years of hard work had been wasted. As for his disciple's hometown, he definitely wouldn't dare to save it. The other party was a 9 tribulations Arhat who had been famous for a long time. He was only a 4 tribulation transcender. In the distant Buddhist domain, in the core area of the Buddhist kingdom. Here, there were spiritual mountains that shone with golden light, standing tall in the starry sky. On the summit of one of the spiritual mountains, lightning flickered, as if it wanted to destroy all evil in the world. At this time, a tall Vajra with angry eyes was bathed in lightning. Then, he took a step forward and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already inside a heavenly abode. This was the famous mountain-raising heavenly abode of the Buddhist domain. The mountain-raising heavenly abode was filled with golden light and dense spiritual energy. Buddhist chants that could calm one's mind resounded between heaven and earth. Below was a huge continent. Countless believers were kneeling on the ground, chanting something with pious and fanatical expressions. When these believers saw mountain-raising heavenly abode, they became even more fanatical. In the sky above this heavenly abode, there was also a planet with life. Unlike those fanatical believers, the 100 billion living beings on this planet were all kneeling on the ground and desperately kowtowing to beg for mercy. There were also 2 early-stage Dao integration cultivators kneeling in the air and shouting, "Mountain-raising heavenly abode, we were wrong. Please forgive us and spare our lives." Buddhism says that saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda. Mountain raising heavenly abode, the 100 billion living beings of my Chu-Ying planet are 100 billion lives. They couldn't come out because there was an invisible formation barrier that trapped the entire Chu-Ying planet. Mountain raising heavenly abode stood in the air and lowered his angry eyes. Amitabha, all living beings in the world are sinful. If I don't kill you, how can you be free of your sins? As soon as he said that, some of the stronger cultivators of Chu-Yingxing decided to fight to the death and started cursing loudly. Damn bald donkey, you will die a horrible death. I curse you for 3 days and your great Tao will collapse. From then on, you will be plagued by evil creatures and will never be reincarnated. Mountain raising heavenly abode suddenly laughed angrily. Haha, so what if all evil creatures are on my body? I waited for 50,000 years for a chance to inherit the Kongming Temple's inheritance. Now, it's gone. Even if I slaughter all of you, it won't be able to appease the anger in my heart. A 9 tribulation Arhat was equivalent to a 9 tribulation transcender, and his lifespan was at most 100,000 years. He waited for 50,000 years for this chance. Want to wait for the next one? That was already impossible. If he wanted to become a bodhisattva, he could only find another way. Die. A thunderous roar like a lion's roar resounded throughout the mountain-raising heavenly abode. Chu-Ying planet instantly collapsed, and 100 billion living beings died in the next moment. 100 billion fanatical believers appeared on the land within the mountain-raising heavenly abode. Since I'm not fated to inherit the Kongming Temple's inheritance, I'll use these 100 billion believers to help me reverse life and death. Mountain-raising heavenly abode seemed to have been possessed, but the golden light on his body blazed even brighter. In the blink of an eye, another half a year passed. In one of the Kongming temples in the land of Kongming, there were 999 steps, and each step had a small portion of the inheritance information of the Dao Seal technique. Only after digesting this portion of the inheritance information could one step onto the next step. Moreover, there was a gradually increasing pressure on these steps. With each step, the pressure would increase by a bit. Jiang Xi stood quietly on the 110th step. 5 days later, a thick grey stream of air spiraled into his body. He opened his eyes, and a divine light flashed in his clear eyes. The strength of my spiritual sense has increased by another 1,000th. At this rate, my spiritual sense will at least double when I finish climbing the 999 steps. This was an unexpected gain. Chapter 433. Jiang Xi didn't expect that the inheritance steps of the Kongming Temple would produce the grey air current that was unique to dead soul beasts. This was truly an unexpected gain. As long as he digested the inheritance information, the grey air current would appear on the steps and strengthen his spiritual sense. Moreover, the grey air current on the steps was very large. It was equivalent to the grey air current produced by a late-stage Tao integration stage soul beast. However, Riverward's brows were tightly knitted, and he was worried. The higher I go, the more difficult it is to digest the inheritance information and the longer it takes. The inheritance time is limited to 10 years. Moreover, the steps will also exert pressure on my spiritual sense. If my spiritual sense isn't strong enough in the end, the inheritance may end prematurely. This inheritance is indeed not so easy to obtain. He stepped onto the 111th step, and a mysterious inheritance information appeared in his mind. It took him another 5 days to completely digest the spiritual sense pressure from the steps. All of a sudden, Riverward was stunned, and his face was full of surprise. This was because the mysterious inheritance information had been mixed together with the inheritance information from the 110th step and had become a whole. Successor, congratulations on obtaining the first level of the Dao Seal technique. This was the notification from the Kongming Temple. The experience panel has been updated. Please check it. The notification sounded in his mind at the same time. This inheritance information is finally qualified to be recorded in the experience panel. He opened the experience panel to check the changes. Secret technique, Dao fusion technique, 4 Dao fusion techniques, 40,400,000, Dao pattern technique, 3 Dao patterns, 40,400,000,000, Dao Seal Technique, incomplete, none, 40,400,000,000. The words Dao Seal Technique finally appeared in the secret technique column. The annoying thing was that it had the word incomplete and was incomplete. As expected, I need to complete all 999 steps to obtain the complete inheritance. It's now the 111th step. Based on this, there are a total of 9 levels of the Dao Seal Technique. 999 divided by 111 was equal to 9. Jiang thought for a while and put this thought aside for the time being. He let his clone refine the spiritual fruit to increase the level of the Dao Seal Technique and see what effect it would have. The first level of the Dao Seal Technique was more complete than the incomplete information from before. Therefore, he also had a preliminary understanding of this set of soul mystic techniques. The so-called Dao Seal art was similar to the Dao pattern art through different means. However, Dao pattern arts used Dao arts to refine the body, while Dao Seal arts used Dao arts to refine the soul and strengthen the soul. I have 4 Daos of the Dao of heaven and earth. If I master this technique, will my soul reach the Dao integration stage in advance? Jiang Ci was looking forward to it. This was because the Dao pattern technique was like this. When using 4 Dao arts to refine one's body, one would be able to refine it. Although the realm of his body was still a 3-line Doling, Yuan spirit, it was equivalent to a 4-line Dozong, Dao unification. In just 2.5 hours, the clone had refined 1 million points of spiritual energy, and the upgrade was completed. Suddenly, Jiang Ci's original body and his doppelganger on the first moon of Earth changed. In the minds of the two bodies, the two images of observing self emitted a blazing golden spiritual light at the same time. Then, the Daoist rhymes flowed. 4 Daoist arts, sword, gale, Li fire, and Vajra. Each of them separated a wisp of true Dao intent, which spiraled and condensed. It then turned into a 4-colored petal that hung in front of the image of observing self, like a layer of armor. When these changes were over, Jiang Ci's eyes flashed. No. There was a problem. According to the inheritance information of the Dao Seal art, after the first level was successfully cultivated, the Dao Seal would condense into a Dao Seal in the mind and attach to the cultivator's soul. It was not a petal. Is there a problem with my visualization technique? His visualization technique came from the Buddhist ruins on Earth and was extremely mysterious. Jiang Ci could not figure out this problem for the time being. He shook his head and carefully checked the changes after the first level of the Dao Seal art was successfully cultivated. The strength of my soul has increased by a level. The most obvious manifestation was that he had finally broken through the limit of his spiritual sense detection. Originally, his spiritual sense detection range was only 1,000 kilometers, but now it had directly increased to 2,000 kilometers. The effect is very obvious. Jiang Ci's eyes lit up. This was already the spiritual sense strength of an early-stage Yuan spirit. He looked at the interface again. Sad smiley Dao Seal art, incomplete, 1 seal costs 4 million, the first level was complete. Then, Jiang Ci tried to continue to cultivate and improve the Dao Seal art. The result was, of course, failure. Because he did not obtain the follow-up secret technique of the Dao Seal art, he naturally could not continue to improve it. After the strength of my spiritual sense has increased, the speed of understanding and digesting the inheritance information has also increased. This way, I might have a chance to obtain the complete inheritance. Jiang Ci stepped onto the 112th step. Although the spiritual sense suppression emitted by the steps had increased, his endurance had also increased. Originally, it took him 5 days to completely digest the inheritance information of the 111th step. However, it took him less than 3 days to reach the 112th step. The powerful existence that left behind the Temple of Kongming probably did not expect that someone would cheat. After Jiang Ci obtained part of the inheritance, he had the help of the experience value interface. He could complete the cultivation improvement and strengthen the strength of his soul and spiritual sense in a short period of time. This offset the spiritual sense suppression that increased with each step and allowed him to climb higher steps. Compared to him, the inheritors who came here to receive the inheritance all climbed the steps in one go to obtain the inheritance information. Because the inheritance time limit was 10 years, no one was willing to waste time. Therefore, no one would stop to cultivate the part of the inheritance that they obtained. This was also one of the reasons why no one had been able to obtain the complete inheritance for countless years. However, even part of the inheritance of the Dao seal art was endlessly useful to many inheritors. Even if they could not become a Dao monarch, they still had the opportunity to touch the threshold of becoming a Dao immortal true monarch in an inconspicuous palace at the edge of the myriad mountains Star Sea. The 5 natives who were responsible for the assassination were kneeling in front of the main hall with terrified expressions. This time, it was the true body of a perfected person. A skinny old man at the 4th Tribulation Transcender realm sat upright in the main hall, not saying a word. He had already received news that there had been a rumor in the Purple Heaven sect recently that the core disciple of the 3rd Tribulation, Jiang Ci, had died. This news was not provided by the 5 assassins below. It is said that the Wine Sword Immortal, who had been dormant in the ancient Dao origin realm for 50,000 years, returned to the sect because of this. If not for the suppression of the perfected person, something big would have happened. From the looks of it, the possibility of Jiang Ci dying is very high. In that case, there is no need for the 5 of them to live. As a 4th Tribulation Transcender, he naturally knew that he could not leave any traces behind. The skinny old man suddenly said to the 5 people below, "You guys did well this time. You did not disappoint me." The 5 natives were pleasantly surprised. "Many thanks for the praise, Immortal." If the Immortal said that they did well, then they had completed the mission. In that case, who was the one who killed Jiang Ci? Was it the bald guy who died first? Chapter 434. The 5 of them looked at each other. How should this reward be calculated? An inferior grade immortal artifact. The skinny old man looked at their expressions expressionlessly, then he had a thought. Explode. Puff 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 puff. The immortal Dao restriction hidden on the 5 natives' primordial spirits exploded at the same time. The 5 of them turned into dust and disappeared without a trace. They couldn't be more dead. The immortal Dao restriction was set up by the skinny old man, so its power was naturally controlled by him. Thus, the explosion of the 5 of them didn't cause any commotion. No one would know that he had once hired 6 natives to assassinate a level 3 core disciple. Purple Heaven Sect, level 5, an immortal's cave. Beside the immortal pond, cranes flew and zither music lingered. An old man in a daoist robe sat cross-legged beside the pond. Behind him was a beautiful woman who was playing the zither. On the other side was a transmission phantom, which looked no different from a real person. It was Chi Song. He was a little uneasy, and there was a little fear on his honest face. "Song, don't be afraid, Master will take care of you." The old man in a daoist robe had a kind expression. "Thank you, Master." Chi Song calmed down a little and heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't know if it was true or not. In just a moment, another transmission phantom appeared, carrying a sword and a wine gourd at his waist. "Zhong Li, long time no see." The old man in a daoist robe chuckled. "Old Tulu, don't try to get close to me." The wine sword immortal didn't have his usual unrestrained self, and his face was serious. His gaze was locked onto Chi Song. "You are Chi Song?" The wine sword immortal's voice seemed to have a soul-sucking power. "Greetings, senior wine sword immortal." Chi Song hurriedly bowed respectfully. "Let me ask you, were you the one who spread the news that my disciple Jiang Ci had died?" The wine sword immortal's eyes were sharp. Since senior has asked, junior does not dare to lie. Chi Song cupped his hands and bowed again. He looked like a very polite junior. He took a deep breath and said with a complicated expression, "Half a year ago, I was training in the Myriad Mountain Star Ocean, and I met Jiang Ci by chance. At that time, he was being hunted down by a late-stage Dao integration stage soul beast. I helped him out of consideration for our relationship as fellow disciples. Afterwards, the 2 of us had a pleasant conversation, and I thought I had found a confidant. I didn't expect him to be that kind of person." At this point, Chi Song paused for a moment with a trace of anger on his face. "Continue." The wine sword immortal was expressionless. "My apologies, I lost my composure." Chi Song hurriedly put away his anger. He continued, when we were about to separate, I didn't expect Jiang Ci to suddenly attack me when I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't prepared at all, so I could only passively fight back. As if the heavens were helping me, a nebula vortex appeared behind Jiang Ci and swallowed him. I waited there for half a year and didn't see him come out, so I concluded that he had already died. Are you serious? Are you sure there is no faucet at all? Wine Sword Immortal asked. Every word is true. I know that Senior might not believe me. In fact, I didn't believe it at first either. I think it might be because the Cloud Summit competition is just around the corner and he wants to get rid of me. What's funny is that I even treated him as a confidant. Chi Song laughed bitterly, his face full of regret. Make a heavenly oath. The Wine Sword Immortal didn't talk nonsense with him. At this moment, the benevolent Taoist-robed elder who had been silent all this while frowned and said, Zhongli, this is too much. It's your disciple who doesn't know what's good for him and repaid kindness with enmity. It's fine that I didn't find trouble with you, but you're questioning my disciple? Song is the victim. Master, it's fine. I know that Senior Wine Sword Immortal loves his disciple, I can make a heavenly oath. Chi Song hurriedly said, looking like a reasonable young man, making people have a good impression of him. At this moment, even the Wine Sword Immortal felt that he had gone overboard. Before he could continue speaking, Chi Song said resolutely and decisively, I, Chi Song, use the Tao art I cultivate to swear to the heavenly Tao that if what I say today is the slightest bit false, then I'll die on the spot within 3 breaths of time. 3 breaths passed, and Chi Song was unharmed. Sigh, Zhongli, before you take in a disciple next time, check his character first. The Taoist-robed elder shook his head. The Wine Sword Immortal disappeared expressionlessly. Ancient Tao Origin World, 9 Heavens City, Wine Sword Immortal's Palace. The Wine Sword Immortal sat cross-legged before a wine table, and beside him was Immortal Ping who had a worried expression. How is it? Immortal Ping asked. It's hard to say. I asked Chi Song in detail, and his answer didn't seem to be wrong. The Wine Sword Immortal frowned and described what had just happened. Jiang Ci wouldn't do such a thing, Immortal Ping said resolutely. She had seen Jiang Ci many times, and she understood Jiang Ci's character. The Wine Sword Immortal shook his head lightly. Of course he wouldn't. If it was someone else, they might believe Chi Song. Unfortunately, I don't. I know very well what kind of person my disciple is. Doesn't know what's good for him. Repaying kindness with enmity. The Wine Sword Immortal sneered. Jiang Ci's sword Tao was the purest sword Tao he had seen in his life. It was impossible for someone with a problematic temperament to cultivate such a pure sword Tao. If someone said that Jiang Ci would kill someone out of anger, then there was still some possibility. However, Jiang Ci definitely wouldn't do something that went against his conscience. Unfortunately, it was a transmission illusion, so I couldn't see if the heavenly Tao descended when Chi Song made his vow. The Wine Sword Immortal sighed softly. Some strange magic treasures could conceal the heavenly Tao's vow. Jiang Ci, have you really fallen into a dead end? Why haven't you replied to any of my messages? The Wine Sword Immortal was extremely worried. In the past half a year, he had sent countless messages to Jiang Ci, but he hadn't received any reply. Of course, he knew that Jiang Ci wasn't dead. Because before Jiang Ci left the ancient Tao Origin World, he had left his lifespan with the Wine Sword Immortal. If Jiang Ci was dead, then the lifespan would have shattered a long time ago. The reason he had asked Jiang Ci was mainly to find out what had happened to Jiang Ci before he went missing. The Myriad Mountain Star Ocean, the region where Jiang Ci had been swallowed by the vortex of stars. In the past half a year, Chi Song hadn't left and had been guarding this place. After passing the Wine Sword Immortal, there won't be any problems. Unfortunately, the lifespan of 3rd and 4th heavenly layer disciples can only be checked by perfected monarchs and above. Even if Master is a 9th tribulation transcender, he doesn't have the right to check it. It's fine, I'll wait for another half a year. If there's no more activity here, then I'll be able to confirm his death. Chi Song's gaze was cold, completely different from when he had sent the message just now. It's just that I hate it for destroying one of my treasures. He looked at the cracked ancient compass in front of him with a pained expression. He had obtained this compass when he was training in an ancient secret realm, and it had helped him resolve many dangers. This time, in order to conceal the heavenly Tao's vow, he had completely destroyed it. In Qi-Song's eyes, the value of this compass was thousands of times higher than a low-grade immortal artifact. It's worth it. As long as I can get rid of the threat that's preventing me from reaching the peak, everything is worth it. Qi-Song took a deep breath. Chapter 435. In the following days, Jiang Xi didn't pay attention to outside matters and focused on receiving the inheritance in the Kongming Temple. Due to the time constraints, he put the communication bead in his storage ring to prevent anyone from disturbing him. Time passed, and 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. Everything was very peaceful, and nothing major happened. Jiang Xi sat cross-legged on the 222nd step and opened his eyes, somewhat worried. He didn't expect that the difficulty of receiving the inheritance in the Kongming Temple would increase exponentially from the 111th step to the 222nd step. The spiritual sense pressure of each layer was greatly increased. A month ago, he stepped on the 222nd step. The spiritual sense pressure on this step gave Jiang Xi a feeling that it exceeded the pressure of a sixth tribulation transcender. Under such circumstances, it was very difficult for him to digest the information of the inheritance. However, the result was indeed as he expected. After digesting the information of the inheritance on this step, he immediately obtained the second layer of the Daoist seal technique. No wonder no one has obtained the complete inheritance for countless years, and this is only the 222nd step. The spiritual sense pressure is already so strong, and there are still 777 more steps. In the end, it wouldn't be the spiritual sense pressure of a Tao monarch, right? It was very difficult for Jiang Xi not to guess in this direction. Then, he looked at the changes in his experience points panel. Daoist seal technique, incomplete, 140 million per seal. After obtaining the second layer of the Daoist seal technique, he could continue to improve. It will take another 3 or 4 days for my clone to refine the spiritual fruit. I can take advantage of this time to contact Dudu and Master. With the current strength of his spiritual sense, even if he stepped on the next step, it would be very difficult for him to gain anything under the stronger spiritual sense pressure. It was better to wait until he finished improving before continuing to obtain the inheritance. Moreover, because he had blocked all communication beads, he hadn't contacted his family and friends in the past 2 years. Although Dudu and the Liquor Sword Immortal both had his life jade slip, they would definitely be worried after not contacting him for so long. It was unlike before, when he would contact his family every once in a while even if he was cultivating in seclusion, but this time, he had completely lost contact with them. Jiang Xi took out the communication bead from his storage ring and scanned it with his spiritual sense. He was dumbfounded. There were 785,152 messages and 5403960 unconnected phantom messages. Jiang Dudu received the most information. 70% of these messages came from her. The rest were Xian Tian, Li Baibai, the Wine Sword Immortal, Mu Ning, Yang Jiufeng, and the others. Even Ji Wei had sent him a message. Wasn't it just 2 years of no contact? The universe exploded. It had nothing to do with him. Jiang Xi thought for a moment and sent them a message saying that everything was fine. Then, just as he was about to send a message to Jiang Dudu, Mu Ning unexpectedly took the initiative to send a message. In order to hide the fact that he was in the Kongming land, Jiang Xi chose to send a voice message so that the other party would not be able to see what was happening here. Haha, Jiang Xi, many disciples said you were dead. I knew you weren't dead. Mu Ning laughed loudly. His words touched Jiang Xi, but he also had some doubts. I died. That's right. Didn't you accept the Myriad Mountains Star Ocean's Hell Mode mission? 2 years ago, news spread in the sect that you died in the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea. Who spread the news? I don't know. Jiang Xi was even more confused. At the same time, he cursed who was so wicked. Qi-Song. Very suspicious. That son of a bitch. After ending the message with Mu Ning, he immediately sent a message to Jiang Dudu in case the line was busy. In the end, the line was still busy. He had to pick it up. Because it was his master, the Wine Sword Immortal. Jiang Dudu could only wait. Ancient Tao Origin World, 9 Heavens City, Wine Sword Immortal's Palace. The Wine Sword Immortal had a rare serious expression on his face as he sat at the front of the hall. Jiang Xi's transmission phantom stood to the side. You've lost contact for 2 years and are in the dangerous Myriad Mountains Star Ocean. Have you encountered some difficulties? Do you need me to help? The Wine Sword Immortal asked. Thank you, Master. Jiang Xi bowed respectfully. He could feel the Wine Sword Immortal's genuine concern for him. It was no different from family. Jiang Xi smiled. I didn't encounter any difficulties. I just encountered some fortuitous opportunities. In order to save time, I blocked the transmission. Fortuitous opportunities? The Wine Sword Immortal's eyes lit up. Is it the Dark Void Land? Master knows about it too. Jiang Xi was a little surprised. The Wine Sword Immortal nodded. Of course I know. 50,000 years ago, the Tao Alliance's Heavenly Court gave me a slot. At that time, I rejected it due to special reasons. Jiang Xi's heart stirred. 50,000 years ago? That was when the Wine Sword Immortal started to fall. However, his master was really amazing. He rejected such a precious inheritance just like that. In Jiang Xi's eyes, the value of a Tao seal technique was not inferior to a Tao Lord's inheritance. The Wine Sword Immortal curiously asked, the Dark Void Divine Palace is extremely dangerous. It's very difficult to enter unless you're a tribulation transcender. How did you get in? My body is quite strong. Jiang Xi's expression was indifferent. How strong? 10 times the strength of a top-grade spirit artifact. The Wine Sword Immortal was silent for a moment. It seemed that his disciple was hiding a lot of secrets. Jiang Xi did not tell him about the Tao runes. Therefore, he did not know about the realm of Jiang Xi's body. If he had such a strong body at the peak of the nascent soul stage, it would be even more abnormal after he became an immortal. Thinking of this, he sighed. It's a pity that the inheritance of the Dark Void Divine Palace has a time limit. Your spiritual sense is only at the peak of the nascent soul stage. In a short 10 years, I estimate that you can only obtain the first 3 layers. Master, is the inheritance that difficult? Jiang Xi was unwilling to give up. This was a secret technique that was qualified to be recorded in the experience points panel. If he could not obtain the complete version, it would be too much of a loss. It's very difficult. Over the countless years, countless peerless geniuses entered the Dark Void Land, but they were unable to obtain the complete inheritance. If there was no time limit, it could be slowly consumed. However, the existence that left the inheritance only gave 10 years. The Wine Sword Immortal shook his head. Jiang Xi fell into deep thought. Was there no other way? The Wine Sword Immortal looked at him and said, don't be too greedy. Even the first 3 layers of the inheritance of the Dark Void Land are enough for you to use until the Tribulation Transcender stage. The Wine Sword Immortal looked at him and smiled. However, this time, you made a Buddhist arhat of the 9 tribulations suffer. The Wine Sword Immortal smiled happily. Arhat of the 9 tribulations? Jiang Xi was shocked. Because of the peacock visualization method, he had always been afraid of the Buddhist sects. The Buddhist arhats were powerhouses of the tribulation transcender stage. Arhats of the 9 tribulations were 9 tribulation transcenders. When did he provoke such a powerhouse? How could he make the other party suffer? Although the Dark Void Land is located in the 3rd heaven of our Purple Heaven sect, the inheritance inside is the common resource of the Tao Alliance's 3 sects and 6 sects. The inheritance quotas of the 36 divine palaces are all distributed by the Heavenly Court of the Tao Alliance. You accidentally entered one of the divine palaces and took the quota of the Buddhist arhat, the Wine Sword Immortal explained. Will there be trouble? This was what Jiang Xi was worried about. With his current strength, even if he were to face the weakest immortal stage powerhouse of the first tribulation transcender stage, he could only run away. let alone a 9 tribulation transcender. Chapter 436. Don't worry. The wine sword immortal shook his head. You entered by mistake and didn't mean to take his spot. Even if this gets out in the future, no one will say anything. Arhat Ching Shan is not popular in the Buddhist sect. If he dares to cause trouble, our Purple Heaven sect is not afraid of him. Moreover, only you and I know about this. As long as we don't say anything, no one else will know. Jiang Ci was relieved. Oh right, after you lost contact, the disciple of the fourth heaven, Qi Song, spread the news of your death. The wine sword immortal said. Qi Song. This despicable person. He looks simple and honest, but he is actually a vicious person. Jiang Ci snorted, his eyes filled with killing intent. Suffered a loss? Yes, if my body wasn't strong enough, I would have died in the Kongming land. Jiang Ci told them about how he helped Qi Song and was plotted against by Qi Song. That kid told me that you plotted against him and even swore a heavenly oath. It seems that he does have a Dharma treasure to cover up his heavenly oath. The wine sword immortal laughed. Jiang Ci's eyes were cold and he didn't say anything harsh. Are you confident that you can beat him in this Cloud Summit competition? The wine sword immortal asked. 90%. Jiang Ci was very confident. After cultivating the first 2 levels of the Dao Seal technique, his spiritual sense strength had entered the primordial soul stage. His close combat strength had reached the middle stage of the Dao integration stage. With the combination of the two, his combat strength had increased by a level. No, 2 levels. It would be easy to deal with Qi Song. The remaining 10% was because he was worried about Qi Song's hidden methods. 90%. Very good. The wine sword immortal wouldn't lower himself to the level of a junior. The grudge between Qi Song and Jiang Ci naturally had to be settled by Jiang Ci himself. Of course, if Jiang Ci really couldn't settle it, he wouldn't mind taking action and giving this core disciple of the fourth heaven an unforgettable lesson. The wine sword immortal didn't ask any more questions and ended the communication. He knew that Jiang Ci still had to contact his other relatives and friends. Don't be busy again. Jiang Ci hurriedly sent a message to Jiang Dudu after that. The two of them chatted for a long time. Jiang Dudu was very busy. Not only did she have to deal with Earth's affairs, but she also had to deal with some problems in the entire Milky Way. After all, Jiang Ci was still the Milky Way horde leader. The entire Milky Way belonged to Jiang Ci. She seemed to be reporting to Jiang Ci about what had happened in the past few years. What Jiang Ci cared about the most was the restoration of stability on Earth. Judging from Jiang Dudu's tone, she had killed quite a number of people. In addition to contacting Jiang Dudu, Jiang Ci also chatted briefly with Shen Tian and Li Baibai. The two of them also knew that Jiang Ci's life was not in danger, but they were a little worried because they had not contacted him for 3 years. 4 days later, Jiang Ci ended the emotional contact and returned to the state of cultivation. Because with the help of the experience panel, the second level of the Dao Seal technique was completed. There was an additional 4-colored petal around the Dao Seal technique. Dao Seal technique, incomplete, second seal 40 million. The improvement this time also strengthened his soul and spiritual sense. The range of spiritual sense detection increased from 2,000 kilometers to 4,400 kilometers. The reason for the extra 400 kilometers was that when he received the inheritance of the stairs, he absorbed the gray air flow and strengthened his soul. The previous enhancement was small. When he reached the 222nd step, there were some qualitative changes. Similarly, after the spiritual sense was strengthened this time, he could resist the spiritual sense suppression emitted by more steps and step onto higher steps. Jiang Ci raised his head and looked at the end of the 999 steps. It was thousands of kilometers away. Because the temple of Kongming blocked spiritual sense detection, he couldn't see the end. There are still 3 years before the Cloud Summit competition begins. I should strive to obtain the 3rd level of the Dao Seal technique before then. By then, my spiritual sense will be stronger. Jiang Ci was full of expectations. His opponents in the Cloud Summit competition were all perfected nascent soul. It was definitely not a competition of cultivation, but of Tao techniques, body, spiritual sense, and so on. Tao techniques were performed through spiritual sense. The stronger the spiritual sense, the stronger the power of the Tao technique. The power of using a knife with 1,000 kilograms of strength was definitely different from that of using 10,000 kilograms of strength. In the blink of an eye, another 3 years had passed. Jiang Xi had already been training in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea for 5.5 years. He had also been receiving the inheritance of the Temple of Kongming for more than 5 years. He sat cross-legged on the 305th step and opened his eyes helplessly. I'm still a little short of the 333rd step. Originally, he wanted to obtain the 3rd level of the Tao Seal technique before the Cloud Summit competition began. But now, there was no hope. Because the Cloud Summit competition for the nascent soul stage of the Purple Heaven sect was starting today. I can't stop the inheritance. I'll leave 30% of my spiritual sense here to continue receiving the inheritance. However, with my current strength, even 70% of my spiritual sense is enough to deal with the Cloud Summit competition. I'm going to get the level 4 slot this time. Jiang Xi temporarily stopped the inheritance and took out his communication bead. With a thought, he entered the Tongtian Mountain River diagram. No one knew how big the internal space of the Tongtian Mountain River diagram was. Most people guessed that this illusory world should be as big as the original universe. After all, the Tongtian Eye covered the entire original universe. In the starry sky at the core of the Tongtian Mountain River diagram, colorful auspicious clouds gathered and covered the starry sky, making it look like a fairyland. This place was called the Cloud 9 Heavens. Above the colorful auspicious clouds, there was a huge platform. This was the competition venue of the Cloud Summit competition. The Cloud Summit competition was divided into 2 stages. The first stage was the internal round-robin competition. The second stage was the knockout competition. As there were many nascent soul stage disciples in the first heaven, the internal round-robin competition started half a year in advance and had already ended. There were not many nascent soul stage disciples in the second, third, and fourth heavens. Both stages had to be held here. At this moment, swoosh, 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 one figure after another appeared on the cloud top platform, the 100 winners of the first heaven round-robin competition and all the nascent soul stage disciples in the second, third, and fourth heavens. They gathered here according to their respective heavens. The most eye-catching were the 6 nascent soul stage disciples in the fourth heaven. Old disciples, Zhong Yu, Yang Cho, Qi Song. New disciples, Ji Wei, Kuang Lang, Yang Zhofeng. Then came the 37 nascent soul stage disciples in the third heaven. As for the first and second heaven disciples, not many people paid attention to them. Compared to the old disciples, the new disciples naturally did not receive much attention. Of course, there were exceptions. Jiang Xi, who was in the limelight these few years, became the hot topic of discussion among the disciples. Have you heard? 5.5 years ago, Jiang Xi, who passed the 7th stage of the Green Lotus Tongtian Mountain, is dead. An old disciple in the second heaven said. I heard about it long ago. Some people said it was a rumor and not credible. Wind from an empty cave may not be without reason. And it is said that this news came from the fourth heaven. I think he might be dead. Look, the other disciples in the third heaven are all here, except for him. The crowd glanced at the place where the nascent soul stage disciples in the third heaven gathered. As expected, they did not see Jiang Xi's figure. Chapter 437. Hearing everyone's discussion, Mu Ning only glanced at Qi Song with a cold gaze. He had a pure heart, but he could also distinguish right from wrong. Originally, he had a good impression of this genius disciple with a bumpy background. However, ever since he had communicated with Jiang Xi 3 years ago, he had learned of the hidden details of this matter and had also seen Qi Song's true colors. This was a sinister and vicious villain. Mu Ning, your relationship with Jiang Xi is the closest. Did something really happen to him? Mo Hong, who was also a third heaven disciple, asked hesitantly. Beside him, Feng Lu, Lin Ling Li Xianxian, and Blood Boy also looked at Mu Ning. Everyone's expressions were very complicated. Because Jiang Xi was the number one person in their batch of new disciples, the leader. Jiang Xi was dead, and among these new disciples, only Ji Wei could fight. But compared to Jiang Xi, Ji Wei was still a little inferior. Even if Ji Wei passed the 7th level of the Sky Ascension Mountain a year ago. Mu Ning chuckled. He knew that Jiang Xi had not contacted these people. Now, very few people knew about Jiang Xi's true situation. Jiang Xi, Mu Ning was about to speak when he suddenly stopped. Because a familiar figure had appeared on the cloud top platform. Not far away, 6 nascent soul stage disciples of the 4th heavenly layer were standing very far apart. Qi Song had a simple and honest smile on his face as his eyes swept across his opponents. Of course, he heard those voices discussing Jiang Xi's life and death. However, compared to a dead person, he was more concerned about how to stabilize his position as a 4th heaven core disciple. Zhong Yu passed the 8th level of the Sky Ascension Mountain long ago. No one is his match. The only ones left are Yang Cho and the 5 third heaven people who passed the 7th level of the Sky Ascension Mountain. They are my opponents. As long as I win against them. As for Ji Wei, Kuang Lang, and Yang Jiufeng, these 3 new disciples, Qi Song only glanced at them indifferently and did not take them seriously. At this moment, another figure appeared on the cloud top platform. Qi Song was stunned, and then his expression changed drastically. He was in disbelief and shock. Jiang Xi. He's still alive. Impossible. I saw him being swallowed by the vortex with my own eyes. Even a late-stage Dao integration expert would have a hard time surviving the nebula vortex. How did he survive? Qi Song's eyes flickered as he walked towards Jiang Xi. At this moment, Jiang Xi's appearance also shocked the other disciples. When the senior disciples saw Jiang Xi, their expressions changed. They were just talking about Jiang Xi's life and death. Who would have thought that this formidable opponent was still alive? As for the new disciples, they were very happy. In the past, because they were competitors, their relationship with Jiang Xi might seem a little distant. However, among the 7 new nascent soul disciples in the 3rd heaven, other than Jiang Xi who had passed the 7th level of the Sky Connecting Mountain, only Mu Ning had passed the 6th level 2 years ago. Everyone's strength was no longer on the same level, so there was no competition between them. In addition, everyone had entered the Purple Heaven sect in the same year, so their relationship had become closer. Jiang Xi also greeted everyone with a smile. Just as they were chatting animatedly, Riverward stopped and looked into the distance. Only to see Qi Song walking over with a face full of anger. Jiang Xi, you sinister villain, you're actually still alive. The heavens are really blind. This scene immediately attracted everyone's attention. A 4th heaven disciple was actually facing off against a 3rd heaven disciple in advance. Jiang Xi sneered. Want to make a false accusation first? He saw Qi Song just now but did not make a move. Because this was the interior of the Sky Connecting Mountain and River diagram, everyone was a spirit body formed by spiritual consciousness. Even if they made a move, it would not cause any substantial harm to Qi Song. Is there something wrong with you? Jiang Xi revealed a mouthful of big white teeth. Don't dare to admit what you did. I finally recognize you. 5 years ago, I saved you out of kindness in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea. Not only did you not know how to be grateful, but you even plotted against me. If not for the nebula vortex that swallowed you, I would have died in your hands. Qi Song pointed at Jiang Xi, extremely angry, like an honest person who had been infuriated for 10,000 years. As soon as this was said, the cloud top platform became lively. The nascent soul core disciples of the 4 heavens immediately thought of many things. Jiang Xi plotted against Qi Song? Instead, he put himself in a desperate situation. It turns out that the news of Jiang Xi's death was spread by Qi Song. I learned about the Myriad Mountains Star Sea from Master before. Even if a Dao integration stage cultivator was swallowed by the nebula vortex, there would only be death. But Riverward actually managed to survive. His strength is truly terrifying. Don't digress. The main point now is, did Jiang Xi really plot against Qi Song? Is there a need to doubt it? Qi Song is famous for being a good person in the fourth heaven. His words are very trustworthy. This Jiang Xi is most likely a sinister person. Everyone was discussing animatedly. Qi Song's face was full of anger, and a trace of pride flashed in his eyes. The honest image that he had for thousands of years was showing his advantage at this moment. There was no third person who saw what happened in the myriad mountains star sea. I gained the upper hand by showing my strength first. Coupled with my trustworthy image, everyone believes in me. So what if you tell the truth? Will anyone believe you? Qi Song stared at Jiang Xi. Victory was in his hands. He knew that Jiang Xi could do nothing to him. So, be angry. The angrier you are, the better. It's best if it affects your mentality and affect the upcoming competition. In a battle between experts, the state of mind was also very important. If Jiang Xi was affected, it would be an unexpected gain. Jiang Xi just looked at Qi Song expressionlessly and did not speak. The shamelessness of this bitch was beyond his imagination. However, because of his silence, it made people feel that he had indeed plotted against Qi Song. Shameless villain. Mu Ning was the one who understood the situation the best. Before Jiang Xi got angry, he got angry first. Qi Song glanced at him coldly. Suddenly, Jiang Xi disappeared on the spot. Whoosh, Qi Song's expression changed. He was about to retreat when he found that Jiang Xi was faster than him and the distance between the two was too close. There was no time to retreat. Bang! His lower dantian was hit by a punch. The powerful force instantly scattered all the spiritual power in his body. Bang bang bang! Jiang Xi's fists were like phantoms, landing on Qi Song's body continuously. With a body that was 10 times stronger than a supreme-grade spiritual weapon, every punch was shockingly powerful. Jiang Xi! Qi Song roared, wanting to resist. However, he was already suppressed by Jiang Xi. In a situation where his strength was inferior to Jiang Xi's, he could not resist at all. Die! Jiang Xi smashed Qi Song's head with a punch. Qi Song's spiritual body disappeared. This sudden scene was beyond everyone's expectations. No one thought that Jiang Xi would actually make a move. Because this was the clear sky mountain river diagram, an illusory space. Even if he died 10,000 times, it would not affect his body. Many people frowned, feeling that Jiang Xi had gone too far. Wasn't this bullying an honest person? Chapter 438. The phenomenon of huddling together existed everywhere. After Jiang Xi suddenly beat up Qi Song, a few new disciples who were close to him immediately came over, worried that Jiang Xi would be bullied by the old disciples. Jiang Xi, I didn't expect such a cautious person like you to make a move at this time. Yang Jiufeng smiled. Although the Cloud Peak competition had not officially started and no immortals had come, but everyone knew that there must be immortals paying attention to this place. Jiang Xi making a move at this time had a certain chance of arousing the immortals' dissatisfaction. I don't feel good if I don't beat him up. It feels good to beat him up. Jiang Xi let out a long breath. Yes, I've never seen such a shameless person. I've wanted to beat him up for a long time. Well done. Mu Ning applauded for Jiang Xi. Well done. The second sentence was not shouted by Mu Ning, but by a young man with a thin figure and starry eyes. The effect of his shout was more eye-catching than Mu Ning's and surprised many people. Especially the old disciples of the third heaven, they were even more surprised. Ji Yuxing. This taciturn person actually applauded Jiang Xi? Could there be some secret behind it? Those who could become core disciples of Purple Heaven sect were not stupid. So even if everyone felt that Jiang Xi had gone overboard, no one stood out to stop him. Now that Ji Yuxing had spoken, everyone was immediately puzzled. It was rare for an old disciple to speak for a new disciple. Ji Yuxing was also the strongest among the third heaven nascent soul disciples and had passed the 7th stage of Sky Pass early on. He had a deep foundation. Moreover, Ji Yuxing was a man of few words and rarely took the initiative to communicate with other disciples. In general, his words were very credible. When everyone was puzzled, Ji Yuxing spoke again. Qi Song is a very sinister person. I have also suffered from him before. Seeing how angry you are, you must have suffered a lot this time, right? Ji Yuxing asked Jiang Ci. Very big, I almost died. Jiang Ci nodded. The conversation between the two made the disciples waver in their previous judgment. Was there really a problem with Qi Song? Many people immediately became vigilant. This was because the feeling that Qi Song gave people had always been that of a good person and was very popular. If what Jiang Ci and Ji Yuxing said was right, then he would have to be more careful in the future. On the fourth heaven of the Purple Heaven sect, there was a planet with rich spiritual energy. This was Qi Song's cave residence. In order to better prepare for the Cloud Top competition, he had ended his cultivation mission in the Myriad Mountain Star Sea a year ago and returned to the cave abode. At this moment, Qi Song's expression was contorted as he roared angrily. He felt extremely humiliated. Jiang Ci, he actually dared to make a move. The hundreds of people on the Cloud Top platform could be said to be the core group of disciples of the Purple Heaven sect. And Jiang Ci had beaten him up in front of everyone, and then killed his spirit body in the Heavenspan Mountain River diagram. Damn it! His body is too strong. It's stronger than most Dao integration stage cultivators. I have to think of a countermeasure in advance. If I need to participate in the second stage of the competition, I might have to face him. Qi Song quickly calmed down. He did not think that his strength was weaker than Jiang Ci's. Just now, the distance between them was too close. His body was also weaker than Jiang Ci's. It was normal for him to be suppressed by Jiang Ci. After a while, Qi Song returned to the Heavenspan Mountain River diagram. This time, he was very far away from Jiangxi. He only glanced at Jiangxi with a venomous expression and didn't say anything else. Jiang Ci also did not pay attention to this bitch. After a while, the Cloud Top platform suddenly quieted down. A wave of immortal Dao pressure covered this part of the starry sky. In the sky above the Cloud Top platform, a middle-aged brawny man in battle armor appeared. I, Kang Mu, will be the host of this nascent soul competition. A thunderous voice sounded in the starry sky. Greetings, exalted immortal Kang Mu. All the disciples bowed. Immortal Kang Mu nodded lightly and said, everyone is clear about the rules of the Cloud Top competition. There are two stages, the internal round robin and the promotion elimination. Now, we will begin the first stage of the internal round-robin competition. It will start with the 650 disciples in the second heaven. Each victory will be awarded 1 point. The disciples in the top 10 will be able to participate in the promotion elimination of the third heaven. The disciples in the top 11 to 500 will be able to stay in the second heaven. The bottom 150, in the round-robin competition, everyone would have to fight one match against another. In the round-robin competition of 650 people, everyone would have to fight 649 matches. There were many nascent soul core disciples in the first heaven. In order not to waste time, the round-robin competition had already been completed in advance and 100 winners had already been decided. The second, third, and fourth heaven round-robin competitions would be held on the Cloud Top platform. Next, Immortal Kang Mu announced the order of the matches in the second heaven round-robin competition. The one-on-one matches began very quickly. This was also a chance for the disciples in the higher heaven to observe their opponents. However, Jiang Ci did not need to pay attention to the matches in the second heaven, and neither did Mu Ning. Mo Hong, Feng Lu, Bloodchild, Li Xianxian, and Lin Ling the 5 of them were watching every match with full concentration. Because with their strength, it was very difficult for them to stay in the third heaven after the first round-robin competition. Therefore, they could only strive to get a good ranking in the second round of the promotion elimination competition. And their opponents in the promotion elimination competition were the top 10 disciples in the second heaven. The matches between experts were usually very fast. In just 2 days, the second heaven round-robin competition had ended. The matches were very exciting, and Jiang Xi was also very satisfied. Then it was the third heaven round-robin competition. Immortal Kang Mu looked at Jiang Xi and the others, and said in a loud voice, "There are 37 nascent soul disciples in the third heaven, and everyone will fight one match against another. The top 4 disciples in the top 10 will be qualified to compete for the fourth heaven spot. Those in the top 5 to 20 will be able to retain the third heaven spot. Those in the top 21 to 37 will need to fight against the top 10 disciples in the second heaven for the third heaven spot. As long as they were in the top 4, they would be qualified to compete for the fourth heaven spot." Jiang Xi's eyes lit up. It was time for him to show his skills. His gaze fell on the 5 experts in the third heaven: Ji Yuxing, Bai Dongping, Ming Chen, Wu Heng, Bai Ying. Among the nascent soul disciples in the third heaven, other than him, these 5 senior disciples had also passed the 7th stage of Mount Tongtian. He had already seen the first Ji Yuxing, and the other 4 were not weak either. These were all his formidable opponents. In the single round-robin competition of 37 people, each person had to fight 36 matches, so it progressed faster. Jiang Xi's performance was out of everyone's expectations. He became the most eye-catching one. He actually obtained the 2nd place in the third heaven round-robin competition. In the 36 matches, he only lost 1 match. He lost to Ji Yuxing. In other words, Jiang Xi's strength was ranked 2nd among the nascent soul disciples in the third heaven. This result made everyone exclaim in disbelief. In everyone's eyes, although Jiang Xi had also passed the 7th stage of Mount Tongtian, he was definitely not as strong as the 5 experts in the third heaven. Because Jiang Xi had only entered the Purple Heaven sect for 100 years, and he lost miserably. Chapter 439. In the eyes of others, Jiang Xi getting 2nd place was an incredible result. Jiang Xi himself frowned because this result was somewhat beyond his expectations. Although the Dao Seal technique was still an incomplete mystic technique, the first 2 levels had already caused a qualitative change in his spiritual sense, which was comparable to the mid-stage essence soul realm. To a certain extent, it made up for his lack of spiritual sense. It could be said that his current strength was more than twice as strong as it was 5 years ago. According to Jiang Xi's estimation, he should be able to compete for 1st place in the third heaven. Of course, the result of being 2nd place was not unacceptable. The key was that he had lost miserably. The towering mountain river diagram could perfectly replicate the cultivator's physical state. His current spirit body was also comparable to 10 times the strength of a supreme-grade spirit weapon. Under normal circumstances, if a nascent soul realm cultivator wanted to break his defense, they would at least have to use an inferior-grade immortal weapon. However, in his battle against Ji Yuxing only needed 3 slashes to kill him. 1 slash to suppress him. 2 slashes to break his defense. 3 slashes to kill him. It was a complete crushing. Those 3 slashes not only contained special Dao techniques and saber Dao, but also other things that I don't understand. When did Ji Yuxing become so powerful? According to the information given by Master, although Ji Yuxing was powerful in the last Cloud Summit competition, he shouldn't have been able to kill me with just 3 slashes. It had only been 200 years since the last Cloud Summit competition. Jiang Xi glanced at Ji Yuxing in the distance. Ji Yuxing's strength had brought about a change in his plan to enter the fourth heaven. Ji Yuxing is a little too strong. I think he might be the one to enter the fourth heaven this time, Mu Ning said from the side. He was very relaxed now. Because he had gotten 18th place in the round-robin competition of the third heaven just now, he could already stay in the third heaven without having to compete for a spot in the fourth heaven. You don't trust me that much? Jiang Xi smiled. His mentality was not affected. It's not that I don't trust you. I just sent a message to my master. According to him, Ji Yuxing has improved a little too quickly in the past 200 years, and now he should have the strength to pass the 8th level of the towering mountain, Mu Ning said frankly. The 8th level. Jiang Xi's eyes narrowed slightly. Now, among the nascent soul stage disciples of the 3rd and 4th heavenly layer, only the 4th heavenly layer Zhong Yu had passed the 8th level. If that was the case, Ji Yuxing would definitely enter the 4th heavenly layer. He didn't doubt Mu Ning's words because Mu Ning's master was a Tao immortal perfected lord expert. The information he knew was much more than the wine sword immortal. Is there no hope? Jiang Xi fell silent. At the same time, the Fourth Heaven's internal round-robin tournament had begun. There were a total of 6 nascent soul stage disciples in the fourth heavenly layer, and each of them had to fight 5 rounds. The top 2 could stay in the fourth heaven. According to the normal allocation, there could only be 3 nascent soul stage disciples in the fourth heaven. Therefore, the other 4 had to compete with the top 4 of the third heaven for the remaining fourth heaven spot. Mu Ning could finally relax. Jiang Xi was still fully focused on observing his opponent, watching every battle and analyzing his opponent's situation. It's a pity for Ji Wei. He passed the 7th stage of the Heavenly Connection Mountain a year ago, but compared to those old disciples, he's still far off. If he majored in space Tao techniques, he might have a chance to compete with those 3 old disciples. Yang Jiufeng is at the 6th stage of the Heavenly Connection Mountain, so he definitely won't be able to stay in the fourth heaven. But this is also normal. The new disciples who entered the fourth heaven through the 9 Regions Genius Tournament would basically be eliminated to the third heaven in the first Cloud Summit competition. After a few hundred years of hard work, they can still make it back. Compared to the 2 of them, Kuang Lang is miserable. He's only at the 5th stage of the Heavenly Connection Mountain. Jiang Xi shook his head. Kuang Lang was probably the weakest fourth heaven disciple in the past million years. However, he didn't underestimate Kuang Lang. This person seemed arrogant, but he knew how to endure. He wasn't a brainless madman. Even with such a huge gap in strength, he didn't give up. The truth was indeed as Jiang Xi expected. In the following battles, Kuang Lang gave it his all and didn't stop until he died. His tenacious will to never give up was admirable. The battles of the fourth heaven quickly came to the last 2 battles, which were also the 2 battles that Jiang Xi paid the most attention to. Qi Song against Ji Wei, Qi Song against Yang Chou. He hoped that Qi Song would lose both battles so that the 2 of them could meet in the next stage of the elimination round. The venue of the Cloud Summit competition wasn't on the Cloud Summit platform. Both parties would be randomly sent to an illusory space, a planet, a dangerous place, etc. Qi Song and Ji Wei's figures disappeared from the Cloud Summit platform and arrived in an illusory space dominated by the vast ocean. One of them was simple and honest, while the other was as cold as ice. They faced each other in the air above the ocean, their auras constantly rising. In another 300 years, this person will definitely be my opponent, Qi Song thought to himself. This meant that Ji Wei wasn't his opponent now. Opposite him, Ji Wei was expressionless as he drew his sword. In an instant, the space shattered. Even the ocean below was strangely turned into countless fragments of space. The seawater seemed to be imprisoned. Insignificant skill, Qi Song snorted coldly and disappeared from the spot. He also cultivated space Tao techniques, but they were inclined towards stealth. Hence, Ji Wei's space shattering had no effect on his stealth. Space Tao techniques were at the level of heaven and earth Tao techniques such as space shattering, nothingness, stealth, slashing, and so on. My stealth is difficult to detect even for a virtual entity cultivator, let alone a nascent soul cultivator. Qi Song silently approached Ji Wei with his dagger in the nothingness. Kai, the dagger stabbed towards Ji Wei. At this moment, Ji Wei seemed to be unaware. Poof! Qi Song's expression changed because after his dagger stabbed Ji Wei disappeared like a bubble. Stealth. He can actually use space stealth. At this moment, a cold light flashed from the shattered space and swept towards Qi Song's throat. Qi Song snorted and disappeared. Ji Wei's attack missed and at the same time exposed his position. Kai. The dagger pierced Ji Wei's head. Qi Song won. However, Qi Song's expression was ugly. There was a clear line of blood on his neck. He had almost lost just now. One is Jiang Xi, and the other is Ji Wei. How can the new disciples who entered the sect through the 9 Zones Genius Tournament be so strong? That sword was very strange. I had clearly dodged in advance, but I was still injured. Luckily, My spiritual awareness has already surpassed the limits of the nascent soul stage, and my sensitivity towards space is stronger than his. Otherwise, I would have lost this time. However, I still won. As long as I win one more round and defeat Yang Cho, I will be able to enter the 4th level. I don't need to participate in the 2nd stage of the elimination round. Qi Song didn't know that Ji Wei had once wasted 80 years of his time cultivating space and time Dao techniques. If he knew about this, he would probably think differently. Chapter 440. The duel between Qi Song and Ji Wei shocked all the disciples participating in this year's Cloud Summit competition. Many people fell silent, including Jiang Ci. Only River Word himself knew that in this batch of new disciples, in terms of talent, Ji Wei was still the most powerful. Of course, talent was a cheat. A cheat could also be considered a talent. In this aspect, Jiang Ci felt that he was number 1. Next, let's see the duel between Qi Song and Yang Cho. Yang Cho must win. Jiang Ci's gaze was fixed on the last duel. The senior disciple Zhong Yu won all 5 rounds of the level 4 internal round-robin competition. Because he had already passed the 8th stage of the Tongtian Mountain, his ability was far ahead of the rest. Qi Song and Yang Cho both had 3 wins and 1 loss. Whoever won this duel would be number 2 in the level 4 internal round and would be able to stay in the level 4 internal round and would not need to participate in the next round. Jiang Ci certainly did not wish for Qi Song to win, as he would not have the chance to duel with Qi Song. If he wanted Qi Song to know what pain was, he would have to step on Qi Song personally. Of course, defeating Qi Song in the Cloud Summit competition could only be considered as the interest of revenge. To truly resolve the grudge between the two of them, it would have to be done in reality. A quarter of an hour later, a smile appeared on Riverword's face. He was very carefree. Yang Cho won, Qi Song lost. Next, the 8 people who would be participating in the level 4 internal round were announced. Level 3, Ji Yuxing, Jiang Ci, Ming Chen, Bei Dongping. Level 4, Qi Song, Ji Wei, Yang Jiufeng, Quang Lang. Immortal Kang Mu, who was hosting the Cloud Summit competition, said, "The first round of the internal round-robin competition has ended. Next, we will start with the Level 4 internal round-robin competition." The rules of the Level 4 internal round-robin competition are very simple. The 8 people will still be in a round-robin competition. Everyone will have to duel with the others, and the person with the most points will be the only Level 4 internal round-robin competition. The other 7 people will enter the Level 3 internal round-robin competition. Everyone's duel order is as follows. Immortal Kang Mu waved his hand to summon a screen. Jiang Ci looked at the screen. His battle order was Ji Wei, Qi Song, Yang Jiufeng, Bei Dongping, Ming Chen, Quang Lang, Ji Yuxing. In other words, his first opponent was Ji Wei, and his last opponent was Ji Yuxing. Coincidentally, these 2 battles were also the first and last battles of the 4th Heaven Advancement Knockout competition. Ancient Dao Origin Realm, 9 Heaven City, within the Wine Sword Immortal's Palace. The Wine Sword Immortal and Immortal Ping were also paying attention to the Cloud Summit competition. A huge 3D phantom was suspended in front of the 2 of them, displaying the situation of the competition in the Heavenspan Mountain River diagram in real time. The strength that Ji Wei displayed just now made him fully qualified to remain in the 4th heaven. Did your disciple defeat Ji Wei? Immortal Ping was very curious. Others are improving, but you won't allow my disciple to improve. Wine Sword Immortal chuckles, shaking his head as he drinks a mouthful of wine. Oh! Could it be that Jiang Ci has comprehended sword intent? Immortal Ping was very astonished. No. Then why are you so confident? Just watch. Wine Sword Immortal was keeping them in suspense. Immortal Ping was even more curious now. The 2 of them turned their attention back to the 3D phantom. The first battle of the 4th Heaven Advancement Knockout competition had begun. Jiang Ci versus Ji Wei. The battle scene in the phantom was in the sky above an endless mountain range. The 2 of them each used their ultimate moves, and the battle was exceptionally intense. There were hundreds of green lotuses in front of Jiang Ci, and Sword Chi wreaked havoc in this space. On the other hand, Ji Wei used various spatial techniques, and with the support of his Time Dao, his moves were even more bizarre and impossible to guard against. This battle was unexpectedly long. After half an hour, the two of them still hadn't finished their battle. According to the standard of a fourth heaven disciple, they would normally finish their battle in at most 10 minutes. Their Dao techniques are actually on par? Immortal Ping was very surprised. No, Jiang Ci is about to win. Wine Sword Immortal smiled in the 3D phantom. Ji Wei seized the opportunity to transform into countless phantoms in the spatial fragments, and his true body sneaked in front of Jiang Ci. Immortal Ping was confused. Jiang Ci was clearly in danger, and Ji Wei was about to win, in the sky above the endless mountain range. Although the space was shattered, there were hundreds of green lotuses around Jiang Ci, and it was like a world of its own, unaffected by the spatial techniques. Seeing Ji Wei transform into countless phantoms, and his true body disappear, he knew that his chance had come. Because Ji Wei mainly used spatial techniques, and his Time Dao techniques as support, his movements were abnormally strange. If Ji Wei didn't give him a chance to get close, then it would be difficult for him to cause any real damage to Ji Wei. Only in close combat could he unleash his full strength. Wang, there was a ripple in the space, and Ji Wei's true body, hidden by countless phantoms, sneaked in front of Jiang Ci. This sword contained the Daos of space and time, and it stabbed towards River Word in an extremely bizarre manner. Good. Jiang Ci didn't dodge, and actually took the initiative to meet the attack. Dang! The sword blade stabbed Jiang Ci's chest, and a huge sound rang out. The impact was like the destruction of heaven and earth, and it instantly spread out. The endless mountain range below was instantly turned into ruins. The power of this sword was very strong, however, the usually cold Ji Wei's expression changed at this moment. This was because his sword couldn't break through Jiang Ci's defense at all. What kind of strength is this? Ji Wei was extremely shocked. In the next moment, the green lotuses around Jiang Ci condensed countless sword chi that caused the space to tremble, and directly killed Ji Wei. This cold youth with a lock of white hair in front of his forehead fell for the first time in front of Jiang Ci. Sorry, this is equivalent to 10 times the strength of a supreme-grade spiritual weapon. Jiang Ci's heart was filled with emotion. Both of their Dao techniques were on par, and if he didn't cultivate the secret Dao seal technique, it would be hard to say who would win and who would lose. Unfortunately, there were no IFS. This battle naturally caused another uproar. This was because Jiang Ci and Ji Wei had displayed many techniques and trump cards just now. This allowed the senior disciples to have a deeper understanding of the strength of the two. Especially Qi Song, whose expression was now incomparably solemn. Even with Ji Wei's Dao technique attack, he couldn't break through Jiang Ci's defense. And my space Dao technique is on par with Ji Wei's. This is troublesome. Qi Song's brows were tightly knitted. He knew that Jiang Ci's body was very strong, because the two of them had a short fight in the Myriad Mountains' Starry Sea. But he didn't expect Jiang Ci's body to be so abnormally strong. Before the start of the Cloud Summit competition, Jiang Ci's sudden attack didn't count. From Qi Song's point of view, it was because he wasn't prepared that Jiang Ci could succeed. Looks like I can only use that move. The Cloud Summit competition didn't stop for a single round, because everyone was in the spirit state. After every battle, the spirit body would return to its original state, and there was no need to rest or recuperate. In the level 4 elimination round, the others went through a few more rounds. Jiang Ci welcomed his second battle, and his opponent was Qi Song. The battle soon began. Chapter 441. Sky Pass Mountain River Diagram, Cloud Top Platform. Hundreds of nascent Soul Stage core disciples from level 1 to level 4 were filled with interest for the upcoming battle. Jiang Ci vs Qi Song. Before the start of the Cloud Top competition, Jiang Ci had killed Qi Song in front of everyone, exposing the grudge between the two of them. Compared to a duel that was purely competitive, this duel that was mixed with gratitude and grudges would obviously be more exciting. This is going to be interesting. Both of them have fought with Ji Wei before and won by a narrow margin. This means that their abilities are similar. It's hard to say who will win this battle, a level 3 senior disciple said with a smile. I think Qisong has a higher chance of winning. After all, Qisong is a level 4 core disciple. He has been cultivating at level 4 for hundreds of years. His foundation must be deeper, someone speculated. That's right. In comparison, Jiang Xi's foundation is still too weak. He probably doesn't have many trump cards. When he fought with Ji Wei just now, only his body looked stronger. His Dao techniques were still at the level of the Dao of heaven and earth, someone agreed. Under the situation of having the same level of cultivation, everyone mainly used their Dao techniques to differentiate their abilities. As for the level 3 and level 4 nascent soul stage core disciples, their Dao techniques were basically at the level of the great Dao. Jiang Xi's Dao techniques were obviously not as high as Qisong's. As the crowd was discussing, Jiang Xi and Qisong's figures disappeared from the cloud top platform and were transported to the illusory realm. The battle scene this time was on a dead planet with extremely high gravity. The planet's sky was dark and gloomy, showing a strange dark red color. Jiang Xi and Qisong stood facing each other in the air. Jiang Xi, in this fair and square battle, you are no match for me. Therefore, you will lose. Qisong's eyes were gloomy, and his tone was extremely confident. Who gave you the courage? Jiang Xi laughed coldly. I'll kill you in 3 seconds. HMPH, arrogant. Qisong's face turned even colder. He still used his stealth technique. His figure merged into the space and disappeared. Green Lotus. Jiang Xi summoned the Green Lotus of Sword Dao. At the same time, the Gale Dao and the Ignis Dao were fused into the Green Lotus of the Sword Dao. The fusion of the 3 Daos increased the power of the Dao's threefold. Strands of 3-colored sword qi condensed, ready to be unleashed. This series of spells took less than a second. Buzz, an imperceptible spatial fluctuation appeared beside Jiang Xi. Qisong's dagger appeared out of thin air, stabbing towards Jiang Xi's vital point. Fatal point. Your body might be strong, but I don't believe that your soul is as strong. Soul Devour. Qisong, who was hidden in the void, was like a poisonous snake. The snake's tongue was the black dagger, and it emitted a heart-palpitating light. This was his hidden trump card, the secret soul-devouring technique. Only those at the Dao integration stage would be able to withstand his soul-devouring attack. Found you. Jiangxi's spiritual sense moved and detected the location of Qisong's true body. He swung his sword, and the sword qi that was ready to be unleashed covered that area. But the attack missed. The sword light landed on the ground. Boom, boom, boom. It was as if a huge earthquake had occurred. The ground cracked, and lava erupted. It was as if doomsday had arrived. After this attack, 2 seconds had passed. At the same time, Qisong appeared in front of Jiang Xi from another direction. The dagger landed on Jiang Xi's body. Clang. It still did not break through his defense. However, the dagger's light sank into Jiang Xi's body and went straight to his sea of consciousness. Soul-devouring technique. Jiang Xi's figure paused, and his eyes dimmed. Die. Qisong sneered. His figure flashed, and the dagger attacked again. He wanted to take advantage of the situation. He believed that with the soul-devouring technique hitting its target, Riverward would die without a doubt if this attack continued. Riverward's attack on him in public previously brought him a great sense of humiliation. Now, he finally had his revenge. In Jiang Xi's mind, the image of himself was still emitting a blazing golden light. The 2 4-colored petals were slowly circling. Whoosh! As if there was a breeze, the 2 4-colored petals spun rapidly. The light of the soul-devouring technique dissipated. This process took less than 0.01 seconds. Jiang Xi's eyes focused. The 100 green lotuses in front of him became more powerful with the help of the Dao fusion technique. Puff, puff, puff. The space trembled violently. Wisps of sword qi condensed and shot out in an instant, landing on Qisong's body. Impossible. Qisong could not believe it. He had used the soul-devouring technique as a trump card to kill many Dao integration stage cultivators. However, this move had no effect on Jiang Xi. Let's end this. Jiang Xi's sword light exploded. Qi Song was engulfed by the sword light. He did not have Jiang Xi's body. In the face of such an attack, his body instantly collapsed and disappeared from this space. Just in time, 3 seconds were up. I said I'll kill you in 3 seconds, so I'll kill you in 3 seconds. Jiang Xi was expressionless. On the cloud-top platform, Jiang Xi and Qi Song appeared one after another. Jiang Xi had a faint smile on his face as he joked with Mu Ning and the others. On the other hand, Qi Song stood alone in a corner with a gloomy expression, as if saying, "Don't come near me." The stark contrast made many people fall silent. Before this battle began, they thought that Qi Song had a high chance of winning. However, the result was unexpected. Jiang Xi won, and he won so easily and so quickly. 3 seconds. It was a complete one-sided victory. Qi Song's attack did not even have any effect on Jiang Xi. Lone Star and the other 6 people who participated in the 4th Heaven Advancement Elimination Round were also analyzing this battle. They could all guess that the light that flashed on Qi Song's dagger at the end should be a mystic technique that targeted the soul. With Qi Song's strength, since it was a hidden trump card, it was definitely not a simple attack. However, they could not understand how Jiang Xi had defended against it. I originally thought that only his body was strong, but I didn't expect his soul to be just as strong. However, my attack can easily break through his body's defense. No matter how strong his soul is, it's useless in front of me. Lone Star glanced at Jiang Xi and did not pay much attention to him in reality. He rarely paid attention to the other people's battles. Most of the time, he closed his eyes to rest and remained silent. In the distant primordial blood realm, the primordial blood realm. This was a dangerous place in the universe. Lone Star's main body was hidden in the most dangerous abyss of the primordial blood realm. In the darkness, a low roar could be vaguely heard, and blood qi filled the air. With 60% of my spiritual sense controlling the aura concealing formation, the powerful existence at the bottom of the abyss should not be able to discover me. Lone Star's gaze was resolute, and complex black runes appeared on the surface of his thin body. No one knew that he only had 40% of his spiritual sense in the sky-reaching mountain-river diagram. In other words, he had only used 40% of his strength since the start of the Cloud Top competition. Even so, in the 3rd Heaven round-robin competition, he had used 3 blades to kill Jiang Xi. With great strength, he was naturally filled with confidence. Chapter 442. Ever since I discovered that every cultivation mission has a hidden opportunity 200 years ago, these people are destined to be no match for me. Even if I can only use 40% of my strength, I can still defeat the other 7 people in the 4th Heaven. This time, the 4th Heaven quota is mine. Once I enter the 4th Heaven, I can take on more hell-level cultivation missions. The higher the difficulty of the mission, the greater the hidden opportunity. I can use these opportunities to lay a solid foundation. Who knows, I might even have the chance to set foot on the peak of the universe. Ji Yuxing's heart was filled with ambition. Ever since he discovered the mystery of cultivation missions. In these 200 years, his strength had undergone the fastest transformation. He believed that if he continued at this pace in the next 100 years, he could become the #1 disciple in the 4th Heaven nascent soul stage. Then, after his foundation was established, he could choose to break through to the essence soul stage and strive for the peak step by step. The 4th Heaven's advancement elimination round was carried out one by one in an orderly manner. Jiang Xi and Ji Yuxing were the 2 people with outstanding performances. They both won without a single defeat. In the round-robin tournament of 8 people, each person had to fight 7 matches. Now, Jiang Xi had 6 wins and 0 losses, while Ji Yuxing had 5 wins and 0 losses. Jiang Xi still had one last match to fight, and his last opponent was Ji Yuxing. Before the 2 of them fought, Ji Yuxing still had one more match to fight. However, in the eyes of many, the outcome was already set. The only 4th Heaven quota was definitely Ji Yuxing's. Because in the previous 3rd Heaven's internal round-robin tournament, Jiang Xi was defeated by Ji Yuxing. The disparity in strength between the 2 was too great. Ji Yuxing could kill Jiang Xi with just 3 slashes. They were obviously not on the same level. If they fought again, Jiang Xi could not win. Even if Jiang Xi still had a trump card, he could not counterattack. In the sky above the cloud top platform, a huge 3-dimensional phantom was suspended. In the phantom, it was the battle that was about to begin. Ji Yuxing versus Ji Wei. Jiang Xi watched expressionlessly. Beside him, Mu Ning sighed. Jiang Xi, you are indeed powerful, but your luck is too bad. If Lone Star didn't appear, you would have entered the 4th layer of heaven. Wait for the next 100 years. I'll definitely be able to enter the next cloud top competition. Jiang Xi felt a little helpless. In fact, his results had already exceeded everyone's expectations. Among the 8 nascent soul stage disciples competing for the 4th heaven spot, his strength was second only to Ji Yuxing. Jiang Xi wasn't weak, but Lone Star was too strong. At this moment, the battle in the 3D illusion began. Ji Wei was very tenacious. Using the Tao of space and Tao of time, he continued to fight back. However, he was still killed by Lone Star's 2 slashes. Just like the next battle, it was a battle without any suspense. The clean and tidy battle made Jiang Xi shake his head helplessly. Indeed, he still had a trump card. Even when he fought against Qi Song earlier, he had only used the Tao fusion technique of 3 Taos, and that was 70% of his strength. Other than his master, the Wine Sword Immortal, and the higher-ups of the Purple Heaven sect, no one knew that he had taken the 4th path, the Vajra Tao. Therefore, the fusion of the 4 paths was his trump card. In addition, the powerful physical realm brought about by the Tao pattern technique was also his trump card. Since the start of the Cloud Summit competition, he had shown that his physical strength was comparable to 10 times that of a supreme-grade spirit artifact. In other words, he only used his body to defend and didn't use the strength and speed of his physical realm. It was worth mentioning that in the Cloud Summit competition, not only did everyone have the same level of cultivation, even the grade of their Dharma treasures were supreme-grade spirit artifacts. Therefore, Jiang Xi's physical strength had a huge advantage in such a battle. But even so, these trump cards were just decorations compared to Lone Star's strength. Maybe I really lack some luck. Jiang Xi sighed softly. Swoosh, swoosh, Lone Star and Ji Wei's figures returned to the Cloud Summit platform at the same time. The final battle to determine the 4th heaven spot was about to begin. Now, Jiang Xi and Lone Star both had 6 wins and 0 losses. Whoever won would be the first and would be able to enter the 4th heaven. Immortal Kang Mu stood in the sky above the Cloud Summit platform and said in a loud voice, "The final battle of the 4th heaven advancement elimination competition begins now. After thinking about it, I think it's better to say good luck and lose well." Mu Ning joked. "You." Jiang Xi stared at him. Without waiting for Jiang Xi to finish speaking, Immortal Kang Mu waved his hand, and Jiang Xi and Lone Star disappeared at the same time and were teleported to the illusory space. This battle took place in the starry sky and was surrounded by meteorites. Although he knew that he was no match for Lone Star, Jiang Xi still didn't give up. As soon as he appeared among the meteorites, he immediately unsheathed his sword. His aura rose and he was in his best condition. 130 sword Tao green lotuses covered a radius of 4,400 kilometers. This was the limit of the Tao technique that he could use now. However, the next moment, Jiang Xi was stunned. Where was Lone Star? Because it was a competition, Immortal Kang Mu wouldn't let the distance between the two parties exceed 1,000 kilometers when he teleported them. However, this time, Jiang Xi didn't see Lone Star's figure within this distance. In fact, he didn't see Lone Star within a radius of 4,400 kilometers. Could it be that Immortal Kang Mu made a mistake and sent Lone Star to another starry sky? Lone Star, come out. Lone Star, come out and fight with me. Jiang Xi's cold voice echoed in the starry sky. However, no one answered. On the Cloud Summit platform, everyone was confused. Just now, Jiang Xi and Lone Star were teleported away together. Why did they only see Jiang Xi and not Lone Star? What happened? Could it be that Immortal Kang Mu made a mistake? Everyone made the same guess and looked at Immortal Kang Mu, wanting to see how this immortal Dao expert would react. They realized that immortal Kang Mu was also frowning. Obviously, the situation was a little complicated. 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Soon, 10 minutes passed. Lone Star still didn't appear. The disciples discussed and made various guesses. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, half an hour passed. Immortal Kang Mu's eyes moved and his voice sounded again. Since Lone Star didn't enter the sky-connecting mountain and river painting again within half an hour, he will be considered to have forfeited. Therefore, River Word is the winner of this match. Wow! The disciples on the Cloud Summit platform immediately became lively. Forfeited? No one expected this result. It was too surprising. In the illusion space, Jiang Ci had already searched through the meteorites in this half an hour, but he still couldn't find Lone Star. Then, he heard immortal Kang Mu's voice. Forfeited? Jiang Ci was stunned. The space changed and he returned to the Cloud Summit platform. Jiang Ci, what kind of luck is this? Mu Ning shouted and pulled Jiang Ci. Congratulations, congratulations. Yang Jiufeng, Mo Hong, Li Xianxian, and the others also came over to congratulate him. Jiang Ci forced a smile on his face. In the distance, Ji Wei and Quang Lang were silent, but there was a trace of complexity in their eyes. Qi Song's face changed from simple and honest to ferocious and terrifying, full of unwillingness. Then, he snorted and left the sky-connecting mountain and river painting. Chapter 443. Lone Star forfeited, and Jiang Ci won without a fight. This result caused a lot of discussion among the disciples. Although some were unhappy, no one said that Jiang Ci was not qualified to enter the fourth heaven. This was because Jiang Ci had already proven his strength in so many battles. He was qualified to enter the fourth heaven. Even if Lone Star did not forfeit this time, Jiang Ci would still be qualified to enter the fourth heaven in the next Cloud Apex competition. Some people were very happy with this result. Ancient Dao Origin World, 9 Heavens City. The Wine Sword Immortal laughed heartily. It's his first time participating in the Cloud Apex competition, and he went from the third heaven to the fourth heaven. This kind of result is rare, right? Haha. Beside him, Immortal Ping was also smiling, but her happiness was brought by the Wine Sword Immortal. Some people were angry. Purple Firmament Sect's fifth heaven Immortal Wu Yi gritted his teeth. He already knew that Jiang Ci was not dead because the inheritance mark of the Purple Firmament Sword Sutra had not returned to the sect's inheritance hall. However, even though the assassination failed, he was not particularly angry. A third heaven core disciple was not so easy to kill. But this time, when River Word entered the fourth heaven, it made him feel endless hatred. The stronger Jiang Ci was, the lower the possibility of him dying in the future. This way, the Purple Firmament Sword Sutra was further and further away from him. Myriad Mountains, Starry Sea, Kongming Land. The light screens of the 36 Kongming Divine Halls had all turned from white to gold. This was because 5 years ago, Jiang Ci had accidentally taken over one of the Kongming Divine Halls. This made Arhat Qingshan of the Buddhist sect furious, and he killed hundreds of billions of people to become his followers. After this news spread, the other immortals who had obtained the inheritance spots were all shocked. They did not dare to delay and rushed to the Kongming land, worried that their own opportunities would be taken away. At this moment, on the 305th step of one of the Kongming Divine Halls, Jiang Ci opened his eyes and withdrew his spiritual consciousness from the sky-connecting mountain-river diagram. The fourth heaven's elimination round had ended, and the competition after the Cloud Apex competition had nothing to do with him, so he did not need to stay there. Jiang Ci frowned slightly. This was clearly a happy outcome. However, for some reason, the joy in his heart was not as strong as he had imagined. When Guxing and Ji Wei fought, he was still fine. Why did he give up? This was the only place to enter the fourth heavenly layer. It was extremely precious. Did something happen to Lone Star in the real world? Dead? Or was it some other force majeure? There was no answer. He couldn't understand. Jiang Ci knew that he was being unreasonable. At this time, Someone suddenly sent a message over. He took out his communication bead and scanned it with his spiritual awareness. He found that it was from the Purple Heaven sect. After reading the message, Jiang Xi's expression changed. The content was as follows: after investigation, the third heavenly layer Yuanying stage core disciple, Lone Star, unfortunately perished while carrying out a hell-level mission. Over the course of countless eras, many of the nascent soul stage disciples who displayed great talent had perished in the hell-level missions. Therefore, I solemnly remind all the core disciples that although the sect will provide you with all kinds of cultivation resources, you will not be able to use them. However, one had to act within one's capabilities and not be blinded by temptation. Sometimes, a clear mind is more important than talent. This was a group message, and all the core disciples received it. Lone Star was the same as me. When he participated in the Cloud Summit competition, he was also doing a hell-level mission? Jiang Xi fell silent. The mortality rate of a hell-level mission was 90%, and one could die at any time. It was obvious that Lone Star's luck was very bad. Perhaps the environment he was in at that time was full of danger. Because I was in the Kongming Temple and had the protection of that layer of light, I was safe. Therefore, my spiritual awareness could enter the clear sky mountain river diagram without worry. If I was outside and there were soul beasts around, I wouldn't dare to release most of my spiritual awareness to participate in the Cloud Summit competition. Outside the Kongming Temple, there were hundreds of thousands of soul beasts, and there were even 2 Tribulation Transcender soul beasts. Half of the reason he could enter the Kongming Temple was due to luck, the other half was because his body was strong enough to withstand the siege of the soul beasts. If it was an ordinary cultivator, let alone a nascent soul stage cultivator, even a Tao integration stage cultivator, would be torn apart by the soul beasts. Therefore, under normal circumstances, only a Tribulation Transcender would come here to receive the inheritance. Even in the Myriad Mountains' starry sea, I have to be on guard against the vortexes of nebula and the soul beasts that appear in the void, as well as those natives. Jiang Xi shook his head, and the doubts in his heart finally had an answer. Continue to receive the inheritance, I can't waste any time. He put this matter aside. He had obtained less than 1/3 of the Kongming Temple's Dao Seal Technique inheritance. The inheritance was limited to 10 years, and only half of the time had passed. There were still 5 years left, and his goal was to obtain at least the first 4 levels of the Dao Seal Technique. This was definitely enough for him to use before he became an immortal. As for the rest of the inheritance, he planned to wait until he became an immortal before looking for an opportunity to apply for the Kongming Temple's inheritance from the Heavenly Court of the Dao Alliance. His master, the Wine Sword Immortal, had rejected a quota, so it wouldn't be too difficult for him to apply again in the future. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed. On the first moon of Earth, in the dilapidated Moon Palace. In an inconspicuous corner of a side hall, there was a formation barrier that Jiang Xi had set up. Inside the barrier, Jiang Xi's clone was continuously making mysterious hand seals, carrying out the process of refining his spiritual sense. The hand seals affected the 4 Daos of heaven and earth, sword, wind, fire, and diamond to temper his spiritual sense. At this moment, 4 tornadoes suddenly appeared in his sea of consciousness, roaring wildly. His originally calm sea of consciousness was surging with stormy waves. After an unknown amount of time, his sea of consciousness became calm again, without any waves. The self-viewing image in the sky above his sea of consciousness seemed to have undergone some changes, and it was faintly covered with a layer of gold. It was different from the golden light emitted by his spiritual sense, as its surface had turned golden. He had succeeded in refining his spiritual sense. Although the limit of his spiritual sense hadn't increased, its strength had changed. It was as if a 10-meter-long iron wire had turned into a 10-meter-long steel bar. The clone opened his eyes, full of doubts. Just now, he had faintly felt as if someone was watching him. He spread out his spiritual sense and instantly covered the entire first moon, but he didn't find anything. Was it an illusion? On the 330th step of the Kongming Temple, the spiritual pressure was getting stronger and stronger. It was at least at the level of a 3rd Tribulation Transcender. Jiang Xi was very surprised. Of course, He could feel what his clone had sensed. Was it really an illusion? Whether it was the Earth or the two moons, they all hid secrets that he couldn't see through. With a cautious attitude, he let his clone carry out a thorough investigation on the first moon, but he still didn't find anything. It might really be an illusion. Jiang Xi didn't think too much about it. The doubts in his heart were immediately replaced by pleasant surprise. The spiritual sense of the main body and the clone were connected, and the clone had completed the refinement of his spiritual sense. This meant that his spiritual sense could condense into a primordial soul at any time, and he could step into the primordial soul stage. Chapter 444. Don't worry, don't worry. Jiang Xi didn't choose to immediately condense his primordial soul. The reason was very simple. Only core disciples at the nascent soul stage could take on various cultivation missions and earn a lot of points. Points were money, and they were cultivation resources. According to the Purple Heaven Sect's training route for core disciples, the nascent soul stage mainly focused on cultivation missions. The nascent soul stage was about tempering oneself. The Tao integration stage was about experiencing life and death. Once he reached the nascent soul stage, he would be qualified to take on cultivation missions. Moreover, his actual combat strength had already reached the middle stage of the Tao integration stage. Even if his cultivation broke through to the nascent soul stage, it would be very difficult for his strength to undergo a qualitative change. The so-called qualitative change was naturally when he stepped into the immortal stage. Now, it was better to use the resources of the fourth heavenly layer to strengthen his foundation. Nascent soul stage disciples at the fourth heavenly layer could take on 3 hell-level cultivation missions and 7 danger-level missions. Just the Myriad Mountain Starry Sea is hiding such a powerful secret technique like the Daoist Seal technique. What about the other hell-level cultivation missions? Jiang Xi's eyes were filled with anticipation. Of course, he still had to focus on the inheritance in front of him. He had now reached the 330th step of the 999 steps of the Kongming Temple. With 3 more steps, he would be able to obtain the 3rd level of the Daoist Seal technique. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. The spiritual sense pressure emitted by the 333rd step of the inheritance steps surpassed that of a 6th tribulation transcender. The powerful pressure made Jiang Xi's consciousness somewhat blurry and his spiritual sense unstable. This state had lasted for half a month. However, he was still trying to digest and absorb the inheritance information on this step. The spiritual sense pressure here is already so strong. Will the spiritual sense pressure on the 444th step reach the level of a 9th tribulation transcender? Jiang Xi felt a lot of pressure. The spiritual sense pressure of a 9th tribulation transcender was definitely not something he could withstand at this stage. Unless the strength of his spiritual sense reached the Tao integration stage, which was obviously impossible, every step of the inheritance steps had a grey aura that could strengthen one's spiritual sense. However, this grey aura was just a drop in the bucket, and it was very difficult for his spiritual sense to undergo a qualitative change. Suddenly, a voice sounded in his mind. Inheritor, congratulations on obtaining the 3rd level of the Daoist Seal technique. The inheritance information on this step had already been completely digested by him and merged with the information on the previous steps. A smile appeared on Jiang Xi's face as he temporarily put his worries aside. With the 3rd layer of the Dao Seal technique, the strength of his spiritual sense could be improved again. Of course, it would definitely not reach the Dao integration stage. It could only be said that it would make the later inheritances easier. He opened the EXP panel to check Sad Smiley Dao Seal technique. Incomplete, 2 seals, 1, 4 billion, he could continue to improve. Immediately after, Jiang Xi let his clone refine the Fei fruit to increase the level of the Dao Seal art. 400 million experience points required 400 million points of aura energy. If it wasn't for the fact that he had cultivated the secret Dao pattern art to strengthen his body, he wouldn't have been able to do so. The clone would probably need more than a year to refine so much spiritual energy. But now, he only needed a month to complete it. Another month later, the moment the upgrade was completed, Jiang Xi's mind sank into his sea of consciousness, waiting for the changes to his observation self-image. There weren't too many surprises or expectations. It was just the appearance of the third four-colored petal. What happened next was just as Jiang Xi had expected. In his sea of consciousness, the four Taos of heaven and earth, sword, gale, fire, Vajra, suddenly turned into a four-colored petal. Together with the other two four-colored petals, it slowly circled around the observation self-image. Jiang Xi knew that the next step was to improve the strength of his soul and spiritual sense. But at this moment, the situation in his sea of consciousness suddenly changed. The three four-colored petals suddenly rotated around the observation self-image at high speed, emitting a strong four-colored light that was dazzling and eye-catching. The entire sea of consciousness turned into the same color as the four-colored petals. Jiang Xi was shocked. If the mind had eyes, then his mind would have been blinded at this time, and he wouldn't be able to see what was happening at all. And he found that he couldn't stop this process from progressing. He could only let it develop and change. After an unknown period of time, the four-colored light began to dissipate, and the sea of consciousness returned to calmness. There seemed to be some changes in the dark. Jiang Xi's mind saw everything in the sea of consciousness again. This is. Jiang Xi couldn't believe it. He saw that the observation self-image, which looked exactly like him, had undergone a huge change at this time. Its entire body was dyed with a faint layer of gold. And behind the head of the observation self-image, there was a faint, hazy golden halo. What shocked Jiang Xi even more was that below the cross-legged observation self-image, there was a lotus platform with three four-colored petals. Holy shit, have I become a Buddha? Jiang Xi didn't have any good words to describe his mood at this moment. It was just that the appearance of the observation self-image was very simple. His lotus platform only had three petals, and the golden halo behind his head was very faint. If one didn't look carefully, it would be very difficult to discover. Compared to a real Buddha, it was still far from being one. Big Brother also cultivates the peacock observation method. When he showed the second realm of his mental state cultivation, it was the same situation. So my mental state cultivation should have reached the second realm to produce these changes. It's not that I've become a Buddha. Jiang Xi woke up from his shock. The Buddhist Arhat, Bodhisattva, and Buddha were equivalent to the three realms of tribulation transcender, Tao Immortal, True Monarch, and Tao Ancestor, Tao Lord. He wasn't arrogant enough to think that he had reached the Buddha realm. I didn't expect the Tao Seal technique to have a connection with the peacock observation method. There might be some secret behind it. The connection caused some changes to my state of mind, allowing me to achieve a breakthrough. According to the Shen Tian's division, mental state cultivation was divided into three realms: false, great, and empty. A false heart represented deceiving oneself, deceiving the world, and all things. A great heart represented infinity and tolerance of all things. Emptiness in the heart meant that there was nothing at all. Nothing could affect it. When Jiang Xi was in the battle pattern continent, his mental state cultivation had reached the large success stage of false heart. The observation self-image's body emitted a blazing golden spiritual light. He originally thought that it would take a few hundred years to reach the second realm. He didn't expect to break through here. What an unexpected gain. Jiang Xi opened his eyes and stood up from the 333rd step. After his Tao Seal technique was upgraded to the third seal, the strength of his spiritual sense had finally reached the late-stage essence soul realm. The limit of his spiritual sense detection had reached 10,000 kilometers. With this level of spiritual sense, he still couldn't resist the spiritual sense pressure coming from the inheritance steps. But at this moment, the spiritual sense pressure of a sixth tribulation transcender coming from all directions had no effect on him. His expression, which was originally distorted by the spiritual sense pressure, had now returned to normal. Haha, if that's the case, why would I need 10 years? Jiang Xi laughed. A great heart could accommodate all things. Naturally, it could also accommodate the spiritual sense pressure here. This was the benefit of having a breakthrough in mental state cultivation. Chapter 445. Countless years ago, that powerful existence had left behind the inheritance of the Kongming Temple. Perhaps it had never occurred to him that not only did someone have a cheat, but he also had such a strong mental state cultivation at the nascent soul stage. He was able to be unafraid of the spiritual sense suppression of the inheritance steps. A big heart could accommodate everything. Without the influence of the spiritual sense suppression, Jiangxi was able to digest and absorb the inheritance information of the steps in half a day. Next, he used only 1 year to climb to the 999th step of the inheritance steps and obtain the complete inheritance of the Dao Seal technique. He turned around and looked at the magnificent temple. There was nothing inside. However, Jiangxi was already satisfied. The complete Dao Seal technique was the most precious thing in the Kongming temple. He opened the experience panel to check the changes. Secret technique, Dao fusion technique, 4 Dao fusion technique, 400 million, Dao pattern technique, 3 Dao patterns, 400 million, Dao pattern technique, 3 Dao patterns, 400 million. The word incomplete behind the Dao Seal technique had disappeared. This meant that the Dao Seal technique was now a complete secret technique. Although it's a complete secret technique, my Dao technique is still at the Dao of heaven and earth level, so I can't break through the limit of 3 seals. This was similar to the Dao pattern technique. The Dao pattern technique was now at the limit of 3 seals. Jiangxi knew that he could only continue to improve after all 4 of his Dao techniques were upgraded to the Great Dao level. However, the Dao Seal technique at the level of 3 seals has increased the strength of my spiritual sense by nearly 10 times. In addition, the gray air current on each inheritance step is also increasing the strength of my spiritual sense. After accumulating 999 steps, the increase is more than 3 times. And the effect of these 2 increases is not additive, but multiplicative. In summary, his spiritual sense strength was now equivalent to the early stage of the Dao fusion realm. The range of his spiritual sense detection was more than 30,000 kilometers. Simply put, his spiritual sense strength was now about 30 times stronger than before he entered the Kongming temple. This was an unexpected gain. His mental state cultivation had brought him even more unexpected gains. It's time to leave. He had been in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea for more than 7 years. He had also completed the 2 objectives of this hell-level cultivation mission. How do I leave? Standing on the 999th step of the Kongming temple, one could overlook the entire valley. With just his eyesight, he could see more than 100,000 soul beasts of different sizes. Swaggering out like this was absolutely courting death. Jiangxi noticed that whirlpools were constantly appearing in the void outside the golden light barrier that enveloped the Kongming Divine Palace. Looks like I have no choice but to wait here. His gaze locked onto those vortexes, then he took a step forward and arrived in front of the golden light screen. He waited for a vortex that was close to the light screen. At this moment, there were many soul beasts with simple intelligence outside the golden barrier. They were still crazily attacking the barrier as if they were playing a game. However, even Dao integration stage soul beasts were unable to pass through this light barrier. Jiangxi was very patient. He wanted to ensure that he could escape safely, so he waited for half a month. Suddenly, a vortex with a diameter of 100 meters appeared 10 kilometers away from the golden light screen. Let's go. Before the soul beasts could react, Huo Yuhao's figure flashed past the light screen and entered the whirlpool. Then, it disappeared along with the whirlpool. Roar. The 2 Tribulation Transcender realm soul beasts that were 100,000 feet long only roared. Their eyelids twitched, but they didn't open their eyes. In the Myriad Mountains Star Sea, giant starry mountains stood like islands in the sea of stars. Compared to the giant starry mountains, the stars outside the Myriad Mountains Star Sea seemed particularly small. The indigenous cultivators living on those stars all knew that beyond the Myriad Mountains Star Sea was the universe with infinite territory. Only by passing the 1-month survival trial in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea and becoming a disciple of the Purple Heaven sect could they go to a wider world. However, the Myriad Mountains Star Sea was full of all kinds of uncertainties and fatal crises that could appear at any time. Sometimes, among the tens of billions of indigenous cultivators, there might not be anyone who could persist here for a month on this day, halfway up one of the giant starry mountains that was 20,000 kilometers high. A sinister-looking Dao integration stage indigenous cultivator was temporarily resting here, avoiding the soul beasts and the nebula vortex. This person was called Xiong Heng, a famous demon in the Myriad Mountains Starsea's demon starfish. My luck is pretty good this time. After resting here for half a day, I haven't seen a single soul beast or encountered a vortex. It's best if this continues. In another 3 days, I will be able to complete the 1-month survival trial and become a disciple of the Purple Heaven sect. With the cultivation resources of the Purple Heaven sect, I might be able to step into the immortal realm. In the future, I will return to the demon starfish and recreate the grand occasion of the 5-demon mountain 3,000 years ago. Even if I refine all the living beings on the entire planet into blood food, no one will dare to say anything, Xiong Heng thought to himself. After thinking for a while, he sighed and shook his head. Unfortunately, I am still too late. If I hadn't been delayed on the way and could have come to the Myriad Mountains Starsea in time, I might have had a chance to kill that disciple called Jiangxi. Once I get his gold badge, I can directly become a core disciple of the Purple Heaven sect. 4 years ago, he destroyed a cultivator family on the demon starfish. The nascent soul stage ancestor of this family was one of the thousands of indigenous cultivators who had seen Jiangxi's appearance. When he searched his soul, he learned that a nascent soul stage core disciple of the Purple Heaven sect was training in the Myriad Mountains Starsea. Therefore, he had the idea of coming to the Myriad Mountains Starsea. However, he encountered an accident on the way and took 4 years to reach the Myriad Mountains Starsea from the demon starfish. But after such a long time, he should have left long ago. Hateful. I missed an opportunity. The difference in treatment between the inner disciples and the core disciples of the Purple Heaven sect was not small. Only the core disciples were qualified to enter the 4 heavens, while the inner disciples could only cultivate in the Purple Heaven sect's starry sky continent. Suddenly, Xiong Heng's heart throbbed. Danger! His figure flashed and he was thousands of miles away almost instantly. A vortex appeared in the void near the area where he was just now, as if a peerless beast was about to emerge from it. What a terrifying aura! Could it be a Dao integration stage soul beast? He had lived in the Myriad Mountains Starsea for nearly a month and knew that many soul beasts would come out of the void. In the next moment, a graceful figure flew out of the vortex. A person. Xiong Heng was shocked. Immediately afterward, his shock was replaced by surprise. Because his spiritual sense detected the appearance of the figure. It was the core disciple of the Purple Heaven sect named Jiangxi. Haha, no wonder I haven't encountered a soul beast or a vortex after resting here for half a day. It turns out that this is an opportunity for me. Xiong Heng was ecstatic. He didn't take the terrifying aura he had just sensed to heart. In front of him was a nascent soul stage core disciple of the Purple Heaven sect. No matter how talented he was, he couldn't withstand the attack of a Dao integration stage cultivator. Chapter 446. As soon as Jiangxi came out, his spiritual consciousness discovered that an early-stage Dao integration native was laughing wildly at him from 1,000 miles away. He had a sinister face and was obviously not a good person. Is this person an idiot? Could he be sent by the mastermind who wanted to assassinate me back then? 7 years ago, when he had just entered the Myriad Mountains Starsea, he had been assassinated by a Dao integration native and a primordial soul native. Especially that primordial soul native. Not only did he have a soul-destroying scroll that could kill a Dao integration cultivator, but he also had immortal Dao restrictions on him. If he had not reacted quickly enough, he might have been killed. Stay away from him. Jiangxi remained cautious and turned to leave. As soon as he moved, the native from 1,000 miles away immediately followed him. He's really coming for me. Jiangxi's face darkened. Behind him, Xiong Heng's eyes were filled with surprise and surprise. He's indeed a core disciple of the Purple Heaven sect. He's even faster than a mid-stage Dao integration cultivator. Fortunately, I'm good at speed. Even a late-stage Dao integration cultivator can't escape my pursuit. He seemed to be shuttling through space. His figure flashed and he kept closing the distance between them. In just 3 seconds, He was only 100 miles away from Jiangxi. Go! He waved his hand and summoned a long sword. With a powerful aura, he shot it toward Jiangxi. The long sword was faster than his flying speed. In the blink of an eye, he was behind Jiangxi. This person is too fast. Jiangxi frowned. This was the fastest opponent he had encountered. He was even faster than him. Unless he used a supreme-grade flying boat, he could only get rid of the other party's pursuit. However, he was now in the narrow space of the starry sky mountain. Without enough space to accelerate, the flying boat was just a decoration. He might as well fly faster than himself. I can only fight. The reality was indeed as Jiangxi had expected. In just 3 seconds, when he was still more than 5,000 miles away from the empty starry sky mountain, he was caught up. The other party's long sword flashed and hit him hard. Clang. There was a huge explosion, and the shockwave spread out for thousands of kilometers. However, even with such great momentum, the long sword only managed to pierce into Jiangxi's body by an inch. Impossible. This is the nascent soul stage. Xiong was shocked and his face was filled with disbelief. Phew, after he decided to make a move, Jiangxi didn't hesitate to withdraw the low-grade immortal artifact, Crimson Sky Sword. A huge green lotus of sword Dao suddenly appeared, condensing strands of four-colored sword chi. Go to hell! Jiangxi was expressionless. Strands of four-colored sword chi streaked through the air and landed on Xiong in an instant. Boom! Boom! The four-colored sword lights that blotted out the sky and covered the earth submerged Xiong. This is... Xiong turned pale with fright. This was his final consciousness before his entire being turned into nothingness. He was deader than dead. Instantly killing an early-stage Dao integration stage cultivator. At the same time, after Jiangxi used this move, he did not stop for even a moment. With the fusion of the Dao of wind and fire, his speed was raised to the maximum as he arrived 500 kilometers away. Nothing. Jiangxi was stunned for a moment. After the other party was killed by his sword light, there was no explosion of the immortal Dao restriction as he had imagined. Am I overthinking? However, to be cautious, he waited for another 10 minutes before flying over. After the native died, only a storage ring and a supreme-grade spirit artifact longsword were left behind. Jiangxi reached out and grabbed it. He scanned the storage ring with his spiritual consciousness and was immediately overjoyed. More than 5,000 silver badges. My luck is not bad. When the native cultivators entered the Myriad Mountains Star Sea, they would bring a silver badge with them. Before he entered the Voidland, he had also killed many natives and accumulated more than 3,000 silver badges. Including these, he had nearly 9,000 badges. The leader of the black-robed men at the entrance of the palace once said that collecting 10,000 silver badges would give me an additional reward. It just so happens that I'm not too far away. I can try to collect them all. Jiangxi smiled immediately. He spread out his spiritual consciousness and covered a radius of 30,000 kilometers, hunting the natives with high efficiency. In just one day, he had collected 10,000 silver badges. There were 4 entrances to the Myriad Mountains Star Sea, and one of them was at the palace. A team of black-robed men at the Dao integration stage guarded in front of the barrier wall. Their mission was to investigate the people who entered and left the Myriad Mountains Star Sea. Survive for 7 days. You're not qualified. Leave quickly, a black-robed man shouted coldly, emitting a powerful aura at the same time. A native at the Essence Soul stage stood in front of the black-robed man with a weak aura. Obviously, he was seriously injured and could not hold on, so he returned from the Myriad Mountains Star Sea. He was already very lucky to be able to return alive. Under the powerful aura of the black-robed man, his face became even paler and his injuries almost relapsed. However, he still did not dare to stay and hurriedly left. In front of the barrier wall, native cultivators returned from time to time, but basically, those who did not survive for a month were all chased away by the black-robed men. Not long after, another native at the Dao integration stage returned. Congratulations, you survived for a month and are qualified to become a disciple of the Purple Heaven sect. Are you willing? This time, it was the leader of the black-robed men who spoke. This native at the Tao integration stage looked a little indifferent. He was not too surprised by such a result. This was because he had survived in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea for 3 months and had greatly exceeded the requirements of the trial. He had the right to be proud. "I'm willing," however, before he could finish speaking, another person passed through the barrier wall and returned from the Myriad Mountains Star Sea. It was Jiang Ci. The leader of the black-robed men only glanced at him. At first, he was puzzled, then he was shocked. In a flash, he came in front of Jiang Ci. "Greetings, senior brother Jiang Ci." He bowed respectfully. "No need to be so polite." Jiang Ci nodded slightly and then said, "I have other things to discuss with you." The leader of the black-robed men said respectfully, "Senior brother, please follow me." The two of them flew to the 2nd floor of the palace. The native at the Tao integration stage who had not finished speaking just now was in a bad mood. With his cultivation at the Tao integration stage, he was a powerful powerhouse among the native clans of the Myriad Mountains Star Sea. How could he be treated so coldly here? However, he also knew that the Purple Heaven sect was powerful, so there was nothing he could do even if he was unhappy. Moreover, the black-haired young man was only at the nascent soul stage, but he could make the leader of the black-robed men, who was at the Tao integration stage, bow respectfully and call him senior brother. This meant that the other party's identity must be frighteningly high, and he was not someone he could offend. He asked the other man in black curiously, "Who was that person just now?" "Who is he?" "Senior brother Jiang Ci is one of the strongest geniuses of the Purple Heaven sect." The man in black replied proudly. "The strongest genius." The native at the Tao integration stage was shocked. "How long have you lived in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea?" 3 months. Ch. Senior brother Jiang Ci has lived in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea for a total of 7 years. The native at the Tao integration stage was dumbfounded and speechless. The Myriad Mountains Star Sea was a dangerous place. He, at the Tao integration stage, had lived there for 3 months and already felt that he was very strong. A nascent soul stage cultivator had lived there for 7 years. The shock in his heart could not be calmed down for a long time, and the trace of arrogance in his heart disappeared. Chapter 447. On the 2nd floor of the palace. When he saw Jiang Ci take out 10,000 silver badges, the leader of the black-clothed men immediately understood what was going on. He thought to himself, could it be that this newly promoted core disciple of the 4th heaven stayed in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea for 2 more years just to complete this additional reward? The second goal of the Hell-level survival mission in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea was 5 years, and Jiang Ci stayed there for 7 years. However, he did not dare to neglect and quickly said, "Senior brother Jiang Ci, please wait a moment. This matter will be handled by Immortal Sanwu. I have already sent a message to Immortal Sanwu." It had been nearly 2 years since the end of the Cloud Summit competition, and the news of Jiang Ci becoming a core disciple of the 4th heaven had already spread throughout the entire Purple Heaven sect. There were 100 Tao integration stage, 10 Essence Soul stage, and 3 Nascent Soul stage among the core disciples of the 4th heaven. Each of them could be called the most noble existence among the disciples of the Purple Heaven sect. The leader of the black-clothed men understood that although he was at the late stage of the Tao integration stage, his status in the sect was no longer as good as Jiang Ci's. In just a moment, a skinny old man appeared out of thin air on the 2nd floor of the palace. This old man was the 4th Tribulation Transcender who had been instructed by Immortal Wu Yi to send natives to assassinate Jiang Ci 7 years ago. Of course, Jiang Ci did not know this. He and the leader of the black-clothed men bowed in unison. "Greetings, Immortal." Immortal Sanwu was expressionless. He had the same opinion as the leader of the black-clothed men. He thought that Jiang Ci must have stayed in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea for 2 more years to collect 10,000 silver badges. He was full of disdain for this. However, he could not show it in front of Jiang Ci. He just nodded lightly. "You completed the mission of collecting 10,000 silver badges?" "Yes." Jiang Ci took out the badge. Immortal Sanwu took the badge and said, "I will take you to see Lord He-yun." Jiang Ci was suspicious. Who was it that wanted to see Lord He-yun again? Before he could ask, Immortal Sanwu waved his hand and summoned a powerful force to take him away from the entrance of the palace. The space changed, and he found himself in an even more magnificent hall. The palace covered an area of 100,000 square kilometers. At the top of the hall sat a man in black armor who was nearly 10 meters tall. His aura seemed to faintly merge with this space, mysterious and powerful. On the left and right sides of the hall, there were dozens of immortals exuding immortal Dao auras. Lord He-yun, Level 4 disciple Jiang Ci has completed the mission of collecting badges. After Immortal Sanchen finished speaking, he flew to the right and sat cross-legged in the air like the other immortals. "Greetings, Lord He-yun." Jiang Ci also bowed respectfully. He-yun Immortal looked down at Jiang Ci and said in a deep voice that sounded like thunder. Originally, the Myriad Mountains Star Sea Hell level cultivation mission issued by the sect only had 2 objectives. The bonus mission that you completed was set by me back then. Now, I'll give you 3 choices. First, 1 million points. The second was a 9 luminary star stone. Third, a Dao integration profound soul fruit. Which one do you choose? As soon as he said this, the immortals in the hall all revealed shocked expressions and whispered among themselves. Immortal Sanchen's expression changed. That was too much. Under normal circumstances, the reward for collecting 10,000 silver badges was only 100,000 points. But now, Lord He-yun had directly given Jiang Ci 3 choices. The value of each choice was 1 million points, and in Immortal Sanchen's opinion, the 9 luminary starstone and the Dao integration profound soul fruit were worth much more than 1 million points. Because these 2 items were priceless treasures that even the Purple Heaven Sect's treasure pavilion might not have stock in them. What will he choose? Immortal Sanchen stared at Jiang Ci. Under the gaze of the immortals, Jiang Ci pondered for a moment. Then he said respectfully, "Lord He-yun, can you explain the use of the 9 luminary starstone and the Dao integration profound soul fruit?" The 9 luminary starstone is an auxiliary material for refining immortal Dao Dharma treasures. It has a special effect that can increase the quality of immortal artifacts and has a certain chance of transforming non-supreme grade immortal artifacts into supreme grade immortal artifacts. The Dao integration profound soul fruit is an immortal fruit that assists in Dao integration. After a Dao integration cultivator refines it, it can increase the speed of Dao integration in the shortest period of 100 years. One can complete the process of Dao integration and advance to the perfected Dao integration stage, Immortal He-yun explained. Jiang Ci immediately understood the value of these 2 rewards and made a decision in his heart. "I choose the 9 luminary star stone." "Haha, great." Immortal He-yun laughed loudly. His laughter filled the 100,000 square kilometer hall. At the same time, a black stone flew into Jiang Ci's hand. "Thank you, Lord He-yun." Jiang Ci thanked him. The immortals on both sides of the hall were extremely envious. Immortal Sanchen's eyes flashed coldly. He was secretly resentful because Jiang Ci had made the most suitable choice for him. Of course, 1 million points was needless to say. Only a fool would choose that. The Dao integration profound soul fruit sounded very valuable and could shorten the time of Dao integration. However, this effect was somewhat useless in front of a core disciple of the 4th heaven. This was because the core disciples of the 4th heaven were the top geniuses of the human race. Which one of them was not extremely talented? In terms of cultivation, there was no problem at all. Therefore, to Jiang Ci, who was still in the nascent soul stage, the 9 luminary starstone was the most valuable. To the surprise of all the immortals, Jiang Ci did not leave after taking the reward. Instead, he took a step forward and said respectfully, "Lord He-yun, I have something to report." Immortal Sanchen's heart skipped a beat as a bad feeling rose in his heart. "Speak." Immortal He-yun nodded. "When I was training in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea, someone sent a native to assassinate me." Jiang Ci recounted what had happened. This included the Soul Annihilation Scroll and the Immortal Dao Restriction. These could prove that he had been assassinated. Immortal He Yun was in charge of the Myriad Mountains Star Sea. Now that he had been assassinated here and there was a problem, Immortal He Yun naturally had to be found first. Following Riverword's narration, the expressions of the immortals in the hall changed, and the discussion became slightly louder. Clearly, it was a very serious matter for a powerful core disciple of the fourth heaven to be assassinated in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea. Immortal Sanchen pretended to be shocked to conceal the uneasiness in his heart and whispered with the other immortals around him, and Immortal He Yun's expression became gloomy. Everyone immediately fell silent. Jiang Xi also tactfully stopped talking. Immortal He Yun's eyes were like torches as he swept his gaze over all the immortals in the hall. His gaze seemed to be able to see through people's minds, and no secret could be hidden from him. Finally, his gaze locked onto Immortal Sanchen. Sanchen. Lord. Immortal Sanchen's expression became pale. No one can play tricks under my nose, Immortal He Yun said coldly as he reached out and grabbed at the air. Pu, Immortal Sanchen suddenly turned into a pile of ashes and scattered with the wind. Such a method left Jiang Xi speechless. It was too terrifying. A fourth tribulation transcender died just like that. It felt even simpler than stepping on an ant. Chapter 448. Jiang Xi happily left Immortal He Yun's palace and flew towards the teleportation platform in the starry sky. He didn't expect that the reward for collecting 10,000 silver emblems would be so generous. The lowest reward was 1 million points. He had lived in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea for 5 years and could only get 500,000 points. Moreover, the 9 dazzling star stone he had chosen was a priceless treasure that was worth far more than 1 million points. What Immortal Sanwu could understand, he naturally understood as well. The Dao Integration Profound Soul Fruit had no use for him. With the experience panel, why would he need to shorten the time? As long as he could advance to the Dao integration stage, he could use the panel to directly upgrade to the peak. No matter how fast the Dao Integration Profound Soul Fruit was, could it be faster than the experience panel? The only thing that surprised Jiang Xi was that Immortal He Yun actually killed a fourth tribulation transcender for him. Because in terms of status in the sect, his status as a fourth heavenly layer core disciple was comparable to Immortal Sanwu. Tribulation Transcender had 9 tribulations, and every third tribulation was a watershed. Under normal circumstances, the strength and status of a fourth tribulation transcender far surpassed that of a third tribulation transcender. Jiang Xi guessed that there might be some inside story that he didn't know. At the same time, he also understood that the one who wanted to assassinate him was definitely not Immortal Sanwu, because he had no enmity with the other party. Immortal Sanwu also couldn't be the enemy of his master, the Wine Sword Immortal. A fourth tribulation transcender was nothing in front of the Wine Sword Immortal. Who was the real mastermind behind the scenes? Jiang Xi didn't have a definite answer. Immortal He Yun should know, but since he didn't want to say, he couldn't ask too much. After arriving at the teleportation platform, he activated the teleportation. In a dazzling teleportation light, Jiang Xi disappeared. The Myriad Mountains Star Sea was in the third heavenly layer world. Jiang Xi first returned to his cultivation cave in the third heavenly layer. After taking some things, he left the third heavenly layer. The 4 heavenly layers of the Purple Heaven sect couldn't be teleported to each other. One had to go through the teleportation platform outside the heavenly layer world to reach the 4th heavenly layer. The 4th heavenly layer was a much larger world, with a diameter of nearly 100 million light-years. The cave that the Purple Heaven sect arranged for this new 4th heavenly layer core disciple was a strange planet called the Purple Mystic Planet. The mysterious purple star's spiritual energy was so dense that it formed spiritual waterfalls that could be seen everywhere. It was more than 100 times better than his cave abode in the third heaven. After Jiang Xi settled down, he first looked up information on Immortal He Yun. Only after investigating did he find out that Immortal He Yun was also a legendary 9th tribulation transcender. He had once killed countless immortal Dao experts of the demon race and ghost race in the alien battlefield. After returning from the extraterritorial battlefield, He was assigned by the Purple Heaven sect to guard the Myriad Mountains' starry sea. There's no need for such an expert to give me such a huge benefit, right? Did he bet on me as well? Jiang Ci was full of doubts. After looking at it for a while, his master, the Wine Sword Immortal, sent him a message. Jiang Ci hurriedly picked up the call, and Wine Sword Immortal's message appeared. Disciple, how do you feel about the new environment? The Wine Sword Immortal smiled and drank a mouthful of wine. How extravagant. Jiang Ci sighed. Ha, the fourth heaven is the best cultivation place in the Purple Heaven sect for those below the immortal Tao. How can it not be extravagant? Here, even the most stupid cultivator has a chance to cultivate to the Tao integration stage. The Wine Sword Immortal laughed. Jiang Ci nodded lightly. The disciples of the fourth heaven were all aiming to become Tao immortals or even Tao lords. This cultivation environment seemed extravagant, but it was actually the most basic configuration. I heard that you completed the Myriad Mountains' Starry Seas additional reward mission and met Immortal He Yun? The Wine Sword Immortal asked again. I was just about to ask Master. The reward for this mission is too high, right? Jiang Ci was very puzzled. At the same time, he told him about how he chose the 9 Sparkle Star Stone as the reward. High. It's not high at all for you. The Wine Sword Immortal smiled mysteriously. Jiang Ci was even more puzzled. The reward of at least 1 million points was not high enough. It was enough to buy 10 low-grade immortal artifact. The Wine Sword Immortal drank a mouthful of wine and explained casually, the additional reward mission that He Yun set was actually only 100,000 points. However, He Yun owes me his life. You are my disciple. Even if he gave you a treasure worth 10 million points, it wouldn't be too much. Jiang Ci gave his master a thumbs up. Awesome. To be able to make an expert like Immortal He Yun owe him his life, it could only mean that the Wine Sword Immortal was even stronger. Since you have the 9 Sparkle Star Stone, I will give you 2 more supplementary materials for refining. This way, you can maximize the effect of the 9 Sparkle Star Stone and have a greater chance of improving the quality of the immortal artifacts. The Wine Sword Immortal knew that Jiang Ci had already bought the low-grade immortal artifact, the Red Cloud Sword. Thank you, Master. Jiang Ci smiled and did not refuse. His master was family, so there was no need to be polite. After entering the fourth heaven, don't slack off. Cultivate well. If there is anything you don't understand, send me a message. The Wine Sword Immortal reminded him one last time and ended the transmission. Jiang Ci sighed. This was the benefit of having a master. After that, he entered the Purple Heaven sect's treasure vault through the Eye of Heaven network and found detailed information about the 9 Sparkle Star Stone. This was a rare treasure that depended on luck. Using his low-grade immortal artifact, the Red Cloud Sword, as an example, after refining and fusing with the 9 Sparkle Star Stone, there was a 90% chance of transforming into a middle-grade immortal artifact. There was a 30% chance of transforming into a high-grade immortal artifact. There was a 10% chance of transforming into a supreme-grade immortal artifact. Actually, if it could transform into a middle-grade immortal artifact, it would be a huge profit. Because the price of a middle-grade immortal artifact started from 1 million points. The best middle-grade immortal artifact could even reach 10 million points. Of course, Jiang Ci definitely wanted a supreme-grade immortal artifact. Not only could it increase his strength, but it could also save a lot of resources. With his wealth, even if he went bankrupt, he would not be able to afford a supreme-grade immortal artifact. Now, I just have to wait for Master to send the other supplementary materials over. Jiang Ci was looking forward to it finally. He entered the Purple Heaven Sect's Cultivation Center and submitted the completion application for the Myriad Mountains Star Sea mission. This time, there was no need for a face-to-face review, so it was quickly approved. Both mission objectives were completed. Survive for half a year, 100,000 points awarded. Survive for 5 years, 500,000 points awarded. In this way, he would have 600,000 points. After the Cloud Summit competition, the number of cultivation missions will be reset. As a level 4 nascent soul disciple, I can accept up to 3 hell-grade missions and 7 dangerous-grade missions. The next cultivation direction will be to do cultivation missions and look for the hidden opportunities in these missions. I will endure until the next Cloud Summit competition and then break through to the Essence Soul stage. In this way, he would stay in the nascent soul stage for 300 years, which was not too long or too little. Many other core disciples would stay in the nascent soul stage for thousands of years, or even longer. After having a plan, Jiang Xi began to study the hell-grade and dangerous-grade cultivation missions in detail. Today's efforts would be the cornerstone for his future. He wanted to lay a solid foundation for himself. Chapter 449. 3 days later, the Wine Sword Immortal entrusted a Dao integration stage courier to the Purple Heaven sect. He sent 2 supplementary materials from the ancient Dao origin world to the 4th heaven purple mystic planet where Jiang Xi was. One was a drop of water surrounded by starlight, while the other was a wisp of white flame. After receiving the materials, Jiang Xi immediately contacted the Purple Heaven sect's artifact refining hall and handed over the matter of upgrading Scarlet Heaven Sword to them. He didn't know how to refine artifacts at all, so it was better to let the professionals do the work. As a 4th Heaven Core disciple, he had the authority to ask the Artifact Refining Hall to refine and upgrade artifacts for him for free. Of course, it was only free of labor fees, and he still had to pay for the materials himself. My luck is so bad, at least upgrade me to a supreme-grade immortal artifact, right? Jiang Xi stroked his chin and put this matter aside in the blink of an eye, continuing to study the various cultivation missions. He wanted to make sufficient preparations before doing the missions. According to his plan, he would use up all 10 cultivation missions in the next 100 years. At the same time, he would try his best to find the opportunities in each mission. Of course, he also knew that opportunities couldn't be forced. He wouldn't throw his life away for opportunities. The example and lesson of Lone Star were still vivid in his mind. Another month passed. 4th heaven, Purple Mystic Planet. A short and stocky youth with heavy dark circles respectfully handed the upgraded Scarlet Heaven Sword to Jiang Xi. Senior brother Jiang Xi, fortunately, we didn't disappoint you. This time, our artifact refining hall's master Huisen personally did it. He used the materials provided by senior brother to refine Scarlet Heaven Sword. The short and stocky youth's eyes were burning with passion. He was a Dao integration stage disciple of the Artifact Refining Hall and was a special talent in refining artifacts. However, he didn't have the ability to refine immortal artifacts. Master Huisen, who had personally upgraded Scarlet Heaven Sword, was a tribulation transcendent cultivator, and his artifact refining skills were very high. Jiang Xi had also heard of this master. Of course, this wasn't the main point. His eyes were completely attracted to the new Scarlet Heaven Sword. The Scarlet Sword emitted an indescribable aura, faintly giving off a feeling that it was in harmony with space. He scanned Scarlet Heaven Sword with his spiritual sense and immediately laughed. His luck was really bad. A supreme-grade immortal artifact. In this way, his strength rose another 2 levels. The strength of a cultivator was a combination of cultivation, Dao arts, secret techniques, magic treasures, and so on. Among them, magic treasures took up a very important part. My strength has greatly increased. I can now focus on my quest. Jiang Xi was filled with pride. He did not drag his feet and began to accept cultivation missions on the same day. Let's start with the dangerous missions. Based on the principle of proximity, priority was given to missions in the 4th heaven, followed by missions in the 1st heaven to the 3rd heaven. After his strength had greatly increased, his efficiency in completing missions had also increased. In just 11 years, Jiang Xi had completed 7 dangerous missions. Among them, he found hidden opportunities in 3 of the cultivation missions. There were many kinds of fortunate encounters in the cultivation quests. Not only were there martial arts and secret techniques, there were also all kinds of treasures. He had obtained a celestial golden stone, a daybreak flower, and 1,000 stars grass from the 3 quests. The celestial gold stone was a refining material that was worth 800,000 points. The daybreak flower was a spiritual item that could increase the success rate of transcending the tribulation. It was worth 2 million points. The thousand stars grass was a kind of strange plant life that was worth at least 1 million points. If he was willing to spend money to cultivate it, the mature form's strength could reach the peak of the Tao integration stage. On top of that, the 7 dangerous level missions also gave him 140,000 points. All in all, it could be said that the harvest was huge. This was the benefit of discovering the hidden opportunities in the cultivation quests. Looking for opportunities with a purpose was much more likely than a blind cat running into a dead mouse. Of course, he had also encountered many dangers during this period. If not for his strong enough body and the supreme-grade immortal artifact Red Cloud Sword, it would have been difficult for him to escape those dangerous situations in the quests. After completing the Dangerous Mode quest, Riverward only had 3 chances left to complete the Hell Mode quest. Hidden God World, Wu Mountain Secret Realm, Flame Sea Star. These were the 3 that he had carefully selected from the 38 Hell missions in the Cultivation Center. Among them, Hidden God World was ranked first in difficulty. Just the mission reward alone had reached the highest 1 million points. Jiang Ci planned to start from Flame Sea Star. The mission requirement was to collect 10 flame sea fruits and the reward was 500,000 points. After doing so many quests, he had also concluded a pattern. The more difficult the quests, the simpler the requirements. Most of them were survival trials, collection of items, and the like. The less difficult quests were all about how many living beings to kill, what strongholds to destroy, and a lot of fighting. The reason was obvious. In the dangerous environment of a hell mission, if he dared to cause a big commotion, he would be courting death. Flame Sea Star's terrain was in a state of 2 extremes. Half of it was a fiery world, and the other half was an oceanic world. Following that, Jiangxi used 5 years to collect 10 blazing astral fruits. Then, he began to lurk on this planet, traveling in various dangerous places, looking for the hidden opportunities in this quest. Until one day, a sudden message interrupted his search. Jiang Ci first found a safe place before answering the message. The message phantom that appeared in front of him was his sworn sister, Li Baibai. Third brother, something big happened. Li Baibai's tone was a little anxious. Jiang Ci's expression changed. Something big? Something wrong with Earth? Or what? But he still kept calm and said, "Don't worry, tell me slowly." As their strength increased, the leading position of the 3 sworn siblings also changed. Now, most of the time, it was Jiang Ci who made the decisions. Something happened to Big Brother. Big Brother? Jiang Ci's expression became serious. With Big Brother Shen Tian's personality, although he was sometimes unreliable, he would never cause trouble. For the past 200 years, Big Brother has been studying under the Tsungyun sect's Dao integration ancestor, Wei Sheng, and has been concentrating on Sword Dao. You know this, Li Baibai said. Jiang Ci nodded. 200 years ago, after the 9 Zones Genius battle, Shen Tian became a disciple of the Tsungyun sect. It happened 20 years ago. Senior Wei Sheng took Big Brother to visit an old friend. In the end, during this visit, Big Brother and a young lady from the other party's family fell in love. Li Baibai continued to say, "That's right. That's the kind of love you have. You also know that Big Brother's wife passed away during the first Spirit Chi revival era on Earth. He hasn't remarried for so many years," she added. Jiang Ci. Could this be considered a big deal? But then he thought about it and felt that something was wrong. Big Brother Shen Tian's state of mind cultivation had reached the 2nd level long ago. It could be said that his state of mind was firm, and he had seen through many things. A lady who could make him fall in love was harder to find than finding a needle in a sea of stars. In that case, it was indeed a big deal. Chapter 450. As Jiang Ci saw it, Shen Tian finding someone to love was a big deal, but it was also a good thing. Li Baibai smiled bitterly. Of course it's a good thing if nothing unexpected happens. However, the other party's clan didn't agree and forcibly separated you and that girl. Didn't agree? Even with Wei Sheng's connections, They wouldn't give them face. Jiang Xi was quite surprised. They're from an immortal Dao clan. Li Baibai sighed. Jiang Xi frowned slightly. An immortal Dao clan? Immortals naturally existed if they had the words immortal Dao in their name. If that was the case, then Wei Yisheng's reputation was indeed lacking. But even so, they shouldn't have forcibly separated them, right? This was too melodramatic. Big Brother is a genius, after all. What they did was completely unreasonable. Could it be that someone with a powerful background took a liking to that girl? Jiang Xi asked. This was how most melodramatic storylines developed. A third party or a rich man would step in and bully others. I'm not sure. Through my connections in the Flowing Time Hall, I only heard that their immortal Dao patriarch personally gave the order. Li Baibai shook her head. She was cultivating in the Flowing Time Hall of the Dao Alliance's Flowing Time Hall. Although she only had a single Dao patriarch, given the Dao Alliance's background in the Heavenly Court, she was indeed able to find some information. Tell me about the other party's clan. Jiang Xi said with a solemn expression. He was sworn siblings with Shen Tian and Li Baibai. After so many years, their relationship had long since become like that of family. Since his big brother was in trouble, he naturally had to help. I don't know which clan it is either. Big Brother just casually mentioned it to me. When I asked him about it, he refused to say anything. However, I know that he's been troubled by this matter. Li Baibai was a bit helpless. I'll ask Big Brother. Jiang Xi immediately said. A short while later, Shen Tian's transmission image appeared in front of the two of them. When he saw Jiang Xi and Li Baibai's expressions, he knew what was going on. Third brother knows as well? Shen Tian asked. Big Brother, are you sure you like that girl? Jiang Xi asked. It's from the bottom of my heart. Shen Tian nodded and didn't hide anything with his mental state and cultivation. He was able to see through things very clearly. Now that Big Brother has mentioned it, I really want to see what kind of girl can move Big Brother's heart. Jiang Xi laughed. Shen Tian smiled bitterly. Is there a lot of trouble? River Word stopped joking. It's not easy. Shen Tian frowned, his voice filled with worry. Give me the information of the other party's family. Leave this matter to me, Jiang Xi said immediately. It's the Shuang family, an immortal family in the Kanglan Star region. That girl's name is Shuanglong. Shen Tian did not decline. With the relationship between the three of them, there was no need for formalities. Moreover, he knew Jiang Xi's identity. The problem that he and Li Baibai found troublesome would be much easier for Jiang Xi. Jiang Xi nodded and used his authority as a fourth heavenly layer disciple to search the Heavenly Eye network for keywords, Kanglan Star region's Shuang family, Shuanglong. Soon, the results came out. With a heritage of more than 600,000 years, it's indeed an ancient immortal family, Jiang Xi said. Shen Tian and Li Baibai looked at each other and felt the pressure. With such a long heritage, it meant that this family definitely had more than one tribulation transcender. The lifespan of a ninth tribulation transcender was only 100,000 years. Don't worry. Although the Shuang family has a long heritage, it has never produced a particularly powerful immortal. At present, it only has a third tribulation transcender ancestor, immortal Shuang Cheng, Jiang Xi said with a smile. A third tribulation transcender. Shen Tian sighed. It was still an existence they couldn't compete with. Big Brother, what you should really pay attention to is Shuanglong's identity. According to the information I found, she's a core disciple of the Guanghan sect, just like my status in the Purple Heaven sect, Jiang Xi suddenly said with a serious expression. Shen Tian's expression changed greatly. It was obvious that Shuanglong hadn't told him this. No wonder. I always felt that she was hiding something from me. Shen Tian smiled bitterly and shook his head. The Dao Alliance had 9 major starfields, and the 3 sects and 6 sects each controlled a starfield. The Guanghan sect controlled the Guanghan territory. To be able to become a core disciple of one of the 9 major immortal sects, one had to be a top genius of the human race. Shen Tian also understood that Shuanglong didn't tell him this because she was worried that he would have other thoughts due to the difference in status. It wasn't that he was overthinking. With his mental state, he could see the truth behind the lies. Third brother, is there a way to get the Shuang family to agree to let Shuang Long and me be together? Xian Tian stared into Jiang Xi's eyes. There is a way. Jiang Xi smiled. Thanks. Xian Tian laughed. After ending the transmission, Jiang Xi was still hiding in a deserted place on the Flame Sea planet. He used his spiritual sense to monitor the area within a radius of 30,000 kilometers to ensure his safety. Then, he fell into deep thought. He definitely had to help his big brother, Xian Tian. For so many years, especially when he was on Earth, it was Xian Tian who had helped him. Later, even after he entered the galaxy, Xian Tian had helped him a lot, such as in mental cultivation. Without Xian Tian's help, he wouldn't have been able to reach the second level of mental state so quickly. However, although he had promised his big brother that he had a way, he still had to make a choice. The Shuang family's ancestor, immortal Shuang Cheng, is only a third tribulation transcender. In terms of status, he's inferior to me. If I send a message to him now and tell him about this, he should give me face. The blue planet belonged to the Zixiao domain, so it was naturally under the jurisdiction of the Purple Heaven sect. To a certain extent, immortal Shuang Cheng also had to listen to the orders of the Purple Heaven sect. After thinking for a while, Jiang Xi shook his head, ignoring the arrogance of an immortal Dao expert. He was a nascent soul cultivator. Even if his talent was outstanding, he could die at any time before he became an immortal. Immortal Shuang Cheng was a third tribulation transcender. His talent might not be as good as his, but he definitely had his pride. If he went to see immortal Shuang Cheng directly, the other party would treat him politely, but the real problem would be difficult to solve. Or I could ask my master, the Wine Sword Immortal, for help. With my master's strength, immortal Shuang Cheng definitely wouldn't dare to have any objections. After thinking for a while, Jiang Xi still shook his head. He didn't want to ask his master for help whenever he was in trouble. There's another way. The Zixiao domain has 400 star zones, and the Purple Heaven sect has a branch in each of them. According to the Purple Heaven sect's training route, once a core disciple reaches the nascent soul stage, they will be sent to the various branches of the Zixiao domain to temper themselves. With my status as a fourth tribulation disciple, after reaching the nascent soul stage, I can choose to be sent back to the Blue Star Zone branch. Moreover, I will occupy one of the highest positions in the Blue Star Zone branch, becoming the spokesperson of the Purple Heaven sect in the Blue Star Zone. At that time, the immortal Dao sects and ancient families of the Blue Star Zone will have to give face to the Purple Heaven sect even if they don't give me face. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.